All right, everybody, I am back. It has been a couple weeks. So let me tell you what's been up, and we'll get into the video here. Let me make the video a little smaller. I like that better. Yeah. Sapir, you got to say something after the stream has started to get that loot. So you better start talking if you want it. Eric, you're up for 1,000 Lance loot. Sapir, we're waiting. Let's see. We'll see who else shows up. So I've really been through it, and I'm not all the way through yet. No cakewalk, 500 Lance loot. Sapir, say something. Oh man. Okay, I'm getting anxious waiting. We'll see. I'll address that later. So let's see. I think I've been continuously sick with a little gaps in between, and I popped on here. Predator, you get the last 250 Lance loot. Sapir, you got to wait till the stream starts. Well, thank you for being here. Appreciate it. Starless, hey Lance, I'm the potato guy from Substack. I talked to a lot of people on Substack. What's the potato thing about? I don't remember what that is. I'm sorry. Potato guy. Potato guy. Nothing's coming to mind. I don't know. But, well, anyway. So let's see. So back in, I don't know, it was February or early March, I got like rotavirus. So, you know, vomiting and all the stuff. It was rough. And then almost immediately after that, it was like 2 or 3 days, I was fine. Then I got a cold. The cold lasted for a couple of weeks. Then I got over the cold and I was fine for about 3 or 4 days. And then I probably RSV, like a virus. And that lasted another couple of weeks, and that was bad. But that ended up turning into a secondary and really, really bad sinus infection that then led to the area where I had the surgery, getting a bunch of inflammation and a bunch of extra secondary problems. It was just this cascade of problems. I've been on a cocktail of medications. It's not been a lot of fun. So that's why I haven't streamed for the last couple of weeks. I just haven't been up for it. And I'm still not up. I'm not up for it. So right now I'm somewhat uncomfortable. I'm in a bit of pain. I'm not feeling super great. I haven't been sleeping well. Even when I sleep, I don't know what it is, but this thing it's messed up my appetite. It's messed up my sleep. It's given me headaches. It's made me feel sick. It's made me feel crappy. But the show has to go on. I thought 2 weeks is too much for me to not be back on here. And I know YouTube does all this. Look at me. I'm slouching. I'm like doing this. You know, I'm supposed to be sitting up lively, but if I'm a little slumpy, please bear with me. Okay. So, and I see this isn't full screen. So let's pop that on the full screen. That's better. That should be all set up. Let me start saying hi to everybody. Welcome. So Starless. Oh, after your conversation with Tommy Blanchard. I'm sorry, I don't remember. I'll have to go check it. I'm very sorry. If you want to send me a link or message me on Substack, I'll go check it out, and then that will get my memory going. I'm very sorry, especially dealing with like the baby. Days feel very long because there's like I'm up early in the morning, I'm taking care of her, and then doing a thing, and then running a place, and doing an errand, and doing this thing, and doing that thing, and I got 70,000 things going on. I can't remember what I did yesterday, so I don't even remember what yesterday. And I'm being serious right now. What did I do yesterday? Yeah, see, I'm pausing. I can't remember. I don't know. So I'm sorry, but I had a great time having that conversation. So I hope I talked to him again. And if we talked afterwards, I hope we were friendly and didn't have a big fight. We got Bastache Pistache. I love that name. Digital Gnosis, Ice Cinders. Glad. Yeah. Okay. So hello, everyone. So cool to be here for a live. Yeah. Sophia says, sorry to hear that, Lance. Yeah, so I'm powering through. You know, eventually this stuff will go away. I mean, whenever I move my head, it almost feels like there's a weight that's shifting around and hitting the inside of my skull from the inside. Maybe it's my brain has been expanding by defeating so many moral realists. My brain has evolved like I'm like a Pokemon. I got a mind stone and I applied it to myself and I evolved into a new form. I'm not Mewtwo, I'm Lance 2. So I am Lance 2 now, and my brain is expanding and it can't fit inside my skull. So it's bursting out. Because it just, you know, now I'm going to just extra crush the realists. They have no hope. All right. You look pretty good for a sick guy. Well, I haven't cut my hair, so I'm all raggedy and shaggy. Look at this. I'm bald. You know, you see the big bald spot here, and then I got the hair on the sides. That doesn't look good. I got to shave that off, and I got the kit right there, and I just haven't felt up for it. I still got the stuff from Valentine's Day. I gotta put something else up there. But I like it. I like having that there. So although it does destroy my empty shelf vibe, and you see the backup headphones. So I gotta get that shelf empty. All right. Oh, right. So you could see here, and it's 2 videos with Sean McDowell, people he's talking to. This is Bart Ehrman, and the other one is with William Lane Craig. So Henry Morant says, excuse me, I like Bart Ehrman for his historical stuff, but he's kind of confused in this topic. I agree. He is confused in this topic. Catching up on the stream, wishing. Yeah, thank you. You know what? I would like a speedy recovery. I'd like to not get sick in the first place fucking constantly. I'm really, really tired of it. It's just, out of 8 weeks, I think I've been healthy 5 of them. 5 days out of 8 weeks. So, all right. Someone sent me a message. What's that about? Oh, okay. Thank you. Let's get that covered. Give me 1 moment and we'll deal with that. Sorry, everybody. I have an administrative thing to do here. It'll take me 1 second. Good. Okay. All set on that front. Thank you. Thank you, Sapir. Predator says, oh my God, he's involved in the Super Lance. No, Lance too. Lance too. All right. Lance Reloaded. Oh my God. Is this a continued review or a refresh? This is not a continued review. The review I need to continue is the one with Destiny and the person he was talking to, who I wasn't previously familiar with. So I'm sorry, I'm blanking on their name because it's been 2 weeks. So Eric says, have you tried a nasal sinus rinse? So I can't do that anymore because I have ear tubes. If I do that sinus rinse, it actually shoots out of my ears and I could get all wet, and then I could get otitis externa, I think it is. So no, I can't do that anymore. So, but yeah, I used to do nasal irrigation, and it was, it's gross. Okay. So I'm not going to get into that. All right. Yeah. So someone is mentioning stuff about nasal irrigation. Yeah. I used distilled water. So you don't want to mess around with like tap water and stuff. Anyway, I'm not here. Well, sorry, I should say I'm not a medical professional and I cannot give you medical advice. So do not take any medical advice from me. So just whatever you deal with your medical stuff. Talk to a doctor. Okay, please. Okay, I'm just telling you what I did. All right, so let's get into this video. This is a discussion with Sean McDowell and Bart Ehrman. I try to skip ahead for some of the throat clearing to where they start talking about meta-ethics. And I thought this context was important because Ehrman says, or I'll call him Bart, I don't know what to call him, that this stuff is in his wheelhouse. And as we'll see, I think he makes some pretty basic mistakes here. I didn't listen to all of this, but let's get into it.
It starts with the teachings of Jesus.
Now, what's so fascinating about this to me is I've read some of your books that deal with historical issues, New Testament issues, but this is a book in which you're weighing into ethics and what might even be called meta-ethics, kind of the grounding of right and wrong and the moral transformation that takes place. You might have answered this, but I was really curious if there's more of a backstory to why you wrote this book. Like, you're in your lane in some sense. It comes out towards the end of the book, some of your critiques of the New Testament differences, which is fine. But in some ways, you're stepping a little bit outside of your lane, or correct me if you see it differently, and weighing into these moral, ethical issues, which for me, given that you've had conversations and debate with so many scholars, I thought this is such a fascinating angle, was in particular fascinating with this book. But does that ring true to you? And is there more of any backstory why you wrote this book in particular?
Well, there are 2 backstories. One is that I've been, it's out of my lane in terms of what I publish for general audiences, but it's not out of my lane in terms of my academic work. When I came to Chapel Hill in 1988, my first semester, I was teaching Greek and Roman moral philosophy.
Okay. So notice that he says he's not outside his lane in at least one respect here. So we'll see how that measures up when we start talking about meta-ethics here.
Ancient Greek and Roman religion and such. And so I've been very interested in this field for a long time. The other thing is kind of a more immediate background about what got me interested in writing this particular book. My most recent book was an academic book. So it's one that, most people would know about. It was published with Yale University Press, and it was called Journeys to Heaven and Hell. I wrote a separate book that was called Heaven and Hell. That was a trade book for general audiences. But this Journeys book was written for academics, and it was dealing with this issue that you have in ancient texts. You have a lot of ancient texts in Greek and Roman and Jewish circles, and then in Christian circles, that describe guided tours
real quick. It's just that Henry is saying, says, by the way, I'm reading his book and it doesn't really talk about meta ethics at all, at least from what I saw. So it was weird for Sean to say it was about meta ethics. And Henry then says he was talking about historical ethics, not like meta ethics there, I think. Yeah, he was. He said Greek and Roman, I think he said moral philosophy. And fair enough. He could absolutely be quite a specialist in that. Sometimes if someone throws something at you like meta ethics and you just hear ethics, yeah, I do ethics. So I don't know if there was just a bit of sloppiness in the conversation, and Bart wouldn't claim to be any sort of expert or to be in his lane on meta ethics. So yeah, I could be misconstruing that. And you're right to be more cautious. I don't know exactly what he takes himself to be, but let's just take him at his word on specifically being, someone that is, quite familiar with ancient moral philosophy
of heaven and hell. Where people are actually,
just to be clear, is a separate question from like being familiar with the terminology in contemporary metaethics. So I really do think if someone could be extremely familiar with a bunch of historical work in ethics, and that doesn't mean that they're going to be perfectly on point with exactly how people use contemporary metaethics terminology. And here's another thing, if you go listen to an interview with Simon Blackburn or Russ Schaefer Landau, or people that have much more experience than I do in metaethics, they've been publishing in and are luminaries of contemporary metaethics, they're going to carve up some of the conceptual space differently than me. They're going to use terminology different. They're going to characterize the field differently than I do. And so there isn't even a consensus among contemporary metaethicists, which on the one hand is a bit of a problem. How come we can't agree on what's going on here? On the other, it does mean that to the extent that I make any criticisms of Bart here, they should all be qualified by the fact that unless someone is keeping up to date on the contemporary landscape, it's not that much of a surprise if they're fumbling over or making errors on how other people are using terminology, and that's not a mark against their knowledge or competence in any other respect. It's just maybe he's not familiar with how people frame things contemporaneously. Anyway, let's just actually get into what he says, and we'll see what criticisms I have.
To go to the places of the damned and the places of the blessed, going back as far as we have literature. It's in Homer in the Odyssey, book 10. It's in Virgil in the Aeneid, book 6. And you get it in, so those Greek and Roman, you get a lot of it in Greek and Roman circles, you get in Jewish circles, and then you end up getting in Christian circles. And my analysis of these things was to try and show that these various, they're called katabases, these various journey traditions are used not so much to show what the afterlife is really like. The literary function of these is to show people how they ought to behave in the present. In light of realities of the life and possibly afterlife, you ought to act this way. And in that book, I did a comparison of Greek understandings of the afterlife with Christian understandings of the afterlife, specifically with the question of what's wrong with being wealthy. Because Greek thinkers thought that the problem with being wealthy is it made you a selfish, greedy, unpleasant person, and nobody liked that. And the Christian view was that if you do that, you're not helping the poor, so you won't get into heaven. And so in the Greek tradition, it was all about like your character, and in the Christian tradition, it was about helping the poor. And I just thought that's really interesting contrast. I'd like to write that for a general audience. So the book started off with that as the theme, but then it expanded, as you know, into
I'm just waiting. I'm giving you
and
I just want to get some context for this, and I don't remember exactly quite when they get into it. So hopefully this was helpful. I just don't have a lot of commentary on this. This sounds interesting what he's talking about.
Forgiveness and as well as charitable giving.
That is fascinating. I don't recall reading that in the book, but that makes sense. That would draw you into writing this, given your background and interests. So let's dive in. The subtitle of the book, again, the title, Love Thy Stranger, of course, a unique play off of Love Thy Neighbor, and that our neighbor, you mentioned, is not just our in-group before Jesus. It became the out-group in this universal ethic to care for a neighbor. The subtitle is How the Teachings of Jesus Transformed the Moral Conscience of the West. And you give some specific examples here. You say, prior to the spread of Christianity, there were no public hospitals in the Roman world, no orphanages, poorhouses, or old persons' homes, no government assistance to help those in need, or private charities to minister to the poor, homeless and hungry. These are Christian innovations. Now, of course, as a Christian, I'm cheering this thing on, going, yes, there's a lot of other writers that you talk about, people like Tom Holland, who have attributed these things to Christians. You also indicate that there's this shift. So not only positively helping, but this shift away from a culture of dominance, where fathers could dominate their kids, dominate their wives physically, but also sexually. So from one of dominance to one of service. So the heart of my question is when you call this a moral transformation, Is this a change on a horizontal level in which it's just a change like, say, clothing styles have changed over time? Or is this an objectively good transformation that Jesus brought?
Yeah, good. So he's asking, I like that idea of horizontal. So you have this idea that there could be a change, but it's not going like upwards or downwards with respect to some objective scale. There's just that it's horizontal in the sense that it's changed qualitatively from one, like your moral standards have changed from this set of moral standards to that set of moral standards. But there's not any sense that they've progressed or regressed with respect to some objective standards. So he's asking, when you talk about Christian morality transforming things, is there a presumption here of that transformation being constituted by a type of objective progress? We've moved closer towards the objective moral truths in doing that. So yeah, cool.
We ought to live the way that Jesus lived and support things like hospitals, orphanages, and poorhouses.
I would say some things are objectively good, in my opinion. I think it's good that we have hospitals.
Okay, so he says some things are objectively good. It's good that we have hospitals. I'm not 100% clear on whether he's a moral realist or not. Some people will use the term objectively good in a sort of descriptive or conditional sense, and he may mean it in that respect here. I don't know exactly what he means.
It's good we have orphanage. It's good that we have disaster relief programs. I think these are good. This is my personal opinion. Since it's my personal opinion, I don't think it's objective. But my view is those are good things.
Wait, what? Didn't he just say it's objectively good? And then he says, because it's his opinion, it's not objective? What?
Orphanages and poorhouses.
Right.
I would say some things are objectively good, in my opinion. I think it's good that we have hospitals.
Some things are objectively good, in my opinion. Like it's objectively good that they're hospitals.
It's good we have orphanage. It's good that we have disaster relief programs. I think these are good. This is my personal opinion. Since it's my personal opinion, I don't think it's objective.
Huh? Yeah, that I don't know what to make of that. So he thinks some things are objectively good, but it's his opinion that it's not objective. This seems like loose speech. I doubt if he were like writing a book, he would write it that way. It would be clearer what he meant in a book. This is not yet clear. And yeah, I agree with the chat here. So, people are saying like objectively good, in my opinion. That does sound quite strange. This person says, David Hume says, I wouldn't analyze that too much. I'm inclined to agree. I don't think we could say, he contradicted himself. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Nah, people can speak this way when they're speaking. So Henry Martin says, yeah, he contradicted himself. Like technically he contradicted himself in terms of what he just said, but I don't know that he's really committed to a contradiction here. It just becomes at this point unclear what exactly he means. Yeah, so I think Ehrman is kind of right here. Objective is a word used by persons, but they don't bootstrap you into reality. I don't know exactly what you mean by that. I'm getting more analysis here. Icender says, I think he's using two definitions of objective, maybe some kind of epistemological objectivity. Yeah, but then he would be equivocating in the language, and that would be unclear. And so that wouldn't be a good thing to do either. Henry Martin says, I think he's not sure what objective means. I think it was like stream of consciousness. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I just don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Someone's saying maybe he misspoke. Yeah, I don't know what's going on here. Maybe he'll show up in the comments and clarify.
But my view is those are good
Someone
things.
send it to him. I don't know.
I am not claiming in the book that Jesus' teachings are fully implemented by Christians or ever have been. I do argue that Jesus had a different ideology of service rather than domination, and that was really quite different from anything you get in moral philosophy in the ancient world. I'm not saying that his followers followed his teachings on this. I mean, it's quite clear that the Christian church throughout history has preferred dominance at many times and still does today, and that many individual Christians have not taken on board the idea that you should live a life of service rather than a life of domination. And it's quite clear at every level in our society that hasn't taken on. But the intervention that I think that Jesus made that has stuck with us is that if we want to do good things for other people, we should focus not just on our family and friends, but on those in need, that's the priority. And I think that did make a radical difference in the Western world, not just in the institutions, but also in our conscience. We think that we ought to do that.
Okay, so here's where I think some clarity would help us here. You said in one sense that these are objective, and then twice you said, but in your opinion. So these are not.
I forgot that Sean picked up on that and is responding to that, and I'm glad he's doing that. So hopefully we'll get some clarification here.
Objectively, moral improvement. You said in one sense.
I feel it's because it's like several minutes in and I haven't been saying much, which is rare for me. I feel an obligation to talk more, but let's roll back.
Not just in the institutions, but also in our conscience. We think that we ought to do that.
Okay, so here's where I think some clarity would help us here. You said in one sense that these are objective, and then twice you said, but in your opinion. So these are not objectively moral improvements within themselves. That's a part of my question. And maybe we could clarify what we mean by objective. Is I pulled up a book on meta ethics just to read objective. And if you disagree with this, it's totally fine. He says, moral realism's basic claim is that some things are right and some things are wrong, or good or bad, regardless of people's beliefs, preferences, or attitudes regarding them. So just like
it's a good definition. I don't really have a problem with that one.
Like there's certain historical facts true outside of us. There's certain scientific facts true outside of us. There's moral facts true outside of us. That's typically what's meant by moral objectivism. And so it sounds like you're saying you're a moral subjectivist, that the teachings of Jesus, they're based upon somebody's opinion, whether they adopt them or not. They're not actually objectively good within themselves. Did I categorize that correctly?
I think you're doing it two different categories. Some things are objective. It's objective that there are public hospitals.
Agreed.
It's not objective that that moral values are either good or bad. Usually, there's lots of subjective moral values. Is it good to kill somebody? Well, depends.
Oh, that's quite strange. So it looks like he's talking about a different sense. I don't know why he's using the term subjective in this context. So there's a difference between whether a category of action like killing or stealing or lying is permissible or obligatory or prohibited in some contexts, but not in other contexts. So you take some category of action, stealing. Sometimes it's prohibited. Sometimes it's permitted. Sometimes it's obligatory. It depends on the context. It depends on like the intentions of the agent performing the action, or it depends on the expected outcomes that are foreseeable by the agent performing the action. So like the motivations behind the action or what they could expect to follow from performing the action. So for instance, it would be wrong to steal a medication from somebody if you know that they'll die without it. It would be good to steal a medication from somebody if you know it had been poisoned and you have to take it away before they take it and die, right? So this has nothing to do with meta-ethics. This is a normative moral question about the conditions under which some category of action or action type would like which deontic category would apply to it in that, given the details. I don't know why one would construe that as like a type of subjectivism. And I don't think Sean is mixing anything up here. Sean simply gave a definition of moral realism, and Bart is talking about some other topic and treating it like he's disentangling two different notions. There are no two different notions on the table here. The moral realism is on the table here. It has nothing to do with this sensitivity to context consideration. I don't know why he's bringing it up, and it has nothing to do with subjectivity.
Okay, so I assume you're done there. You said I agree with you in principle that sometimes it depends whether we should kill somebody or not. Maybe you and I would agree in self-defense that's morally okay. So
not necessarily. Yes. In some cases it's okay. That's the point, though. If it's based on a situation, then it's not objective that it's good or bad to kill somebody.
Oh yeah, he's just misusing terminology here. If it's based on the situation, it's not objective. That's false. Sorry, Bart, that's not true. So especially because this is a case where Sean went out of his way to give you a specific formal academic definition. He's not pulling on the dictionary or something like that. He gave, I don't remember what the book he said it was, but it sounded like a meta-ethics book. By objective, he meant like stance independent. He meant like true or false in the way realists mean. And now Bart is saying, well, objective, it's not objective if it depends on the context. Yeah, that's not really the way that anybody in contemporary meta-ethics would use that term objective. They would not use it to mean that if an action would be acceptable in some cases and not others, then it's not objective. No one uses terminology that way. I don't know why. So it looks like he's referring to a different concept, and he's just insisting on using the term to refer to something like sensitivity to context or the situation. And that's just a different context. That's just a different notion entirely than what Sean is talking about. I got to say, it just sounds like Bart's not tracking what Sean is asking him. So Sean is asking him something fairly straightforward, which is, Bart, are you a moral realist? Like, do you think that the changes that Christianity brought to the world are stance independently good changes, like they're stance independently good progress or not? And Bart starts talking about, well, actions can be right or wrong depending on the context. It's just an irrelevant digression. Very, very strange that he would do that. Yeah. Who else? Mickey says, is he confusing objective with universal? No, because I don't even think this is to be universal or not. Sensitivity to context is not about universality. So you could be a universalist and say, look, it's universally good to steal in some cases and universally bad to steal in other cases. Universality has to do typically with the scope of who the moral standards apply to, not whether the category of action, whether all members of the set of the category are like admit of a particular deontic, so like take different things you could categorize actions in the category stealing as. Obligatory, like you have to steal, it would be wrong to not steal. Permitted, like you may steal, but you're not required to. Prohibited, you may not steal. Discouraged, like it wouldn't be good, but it's not necessarily violating a prohibition if you do. There's a number of different terminology, terms you could use. Now, universalism is not that all members of the set stealing must be either obligatory or prohibited or permitted or whatever. It would be that that whatever standard it is. So you could have, let's say there's 50 types of stealing in the set and 30 of them are prohibited, 10 are permitted, and 10 are obligatory. Okay, so now that's your set. What would make it universal is, does that set, like these 30 are prohibited, these 10 are permitted, these 10 are required? Does that apply to everybody, or only people in Utah, or only people that subscribe to a particular religion, or only people on Tuesdays? That's what universality has to do. It's universal if it applies to everybody everywhere all the time. And in principle, you could say it's universal with respect to people, but not universal with respect to like people at a given time, but not universal temporally. So everybody right now is subject to one set of rules, but everybody in the past is subject to a different set of rules. You could get fancy with the types of universality and you could start splitting those up. But universality has to do with scope of who the moral standard applies to. And sensitivity to context would be like, I call it contextualism or situationism or something like that. Those are somewhat orthogonal distinctions. So one question is, okay, we've got this moral norm. Who does it apply to? And then we've got another thing, which is, okay, there's a category of action type, stealing, killing, lying, whatever. Under what context is the action acceptable or unacceptable? The term I would be inclined to use would be absolutism for that, which would be something like it's never like this. The action of lying is always wrong regardless of the context. So even if you're lying to save everybody's life, still wrong. So that would be absolutism. It's exceptionless moral rules. But how fine-grained they have to apply is another question. So it could be exceptionless, but then you consider certain instances of stealing to not fall within the scope of the exceptionless rule. How do you make that distinction? I don't know. I mean, it ends up becoming a terminological issue at a certain point and not a substantive conceptual issue. Icender says, I think Bart is still thinking in ethical terms. Yeah, I think, and not meta-ethical. I think you're right. I think he's still thinking in normative moral terms and not meta-ethical terms. For example, if you ask me ethically if my values depend on other people's opinions, I would say no, but I'm an anti-realist. Right. Deva says, I don't think Bart is a realist. Well, he said certain things are objective, but that's his opinion, and it's not objective. So I don't know what he thinks. Yeah, someone else says Bart is talking more normativity. It's weird though. Why would he think that Sean is asking him a normative moral question when the topic is explicitly meta-ethics?
It depends on the situation.
Okay, so some moral claims depend upon the situation, but that doesn't make them necessarily subjective. So for example, the claim, I mean, so in your book, I mean, we could jump straight to the case as you condemn anti-Semitism and violence against Jews, which you argue led to the Holocaust. So let's talk about that one. Are there circumstances that would make that okay? Or is it universally wrong to do what the Nazis did against the Jews?
I don't have any access to any kind of universal objectivity. I'm a human being, and I have...
Doesn't have any access to universal objectivity. He doesn't have any access sounds like an epistemological claim. Universal objectivity sounds like he's running two different metaethical distinctions together. Sensitivity to scope and stance independence, or what serves as the truth maker for moral claims. I don't know what he means by that. It doesn't sound like he's following what Sean is, trying to lay down. Yeah. So, Alex says, I think Ehrman is just unfamiliar with this type of talk and totally fumbling. That's my impression. I'm sorry, Bart. It kind of sounds like you don't know what Sean is asking you about. And so you're just saying stuff that is kind of terminologically related, but it's not really relevant. Okay. So Icenders is saying, okay, I think now he's getting on the topic, and maybe he's agnostic on the yeah, but if he was agnostic, why wouldn't he say, I'm agnostic on the concept of objective morality? I do not know if morality is objective or not. Like, that's a pretty easy thing to say. It doesn't sound like he knows what he's being asked.
Against the Jews.
I don't have any access to any kind of universal objectivity. I'm a human being, and I have thoughts and views. So do you. If there were something that was a universally objective moral value, our only access to it would be through our brains. And our brains are objects. You have roughly 100 billion neurons in yours. I've got a few less in mine. But since our recognition of morality is based on our human perception, even if you want to claim that there's some kind of moral objectivity, we have no direct access to it except through our subjectivity.
Oh no, Bart. Fuck, dude. We have no access through it, but he's just equivocating on the meaning of subjective. Okay. Glasses off moment. Oh, fuck. Oh. All right. Let's get into it. Okay. So back in this, I can never remember the title of the book, but John Searle draws this distinction between epistemological objectivity and subjectivity and ontological objectivity and subjectivity. I hate that terminology. I think epistemological and ontological totally confuses things. So let's ignore the terminology that Searle uses, but let's talk about the distinction Searle makes. Now, I've said in the past, and I've said to people before in conversations, that I don't really find this distinction very helpful. But the reason I don't find it helpful is because I don't think it's important to treat these as like a quaternary category of like two things, like jumbling them together. There's just two different dichotomies that are just orthogonal to one another. They need to be kept separate. And treating them as like four categories in some quaternary relation, I think confuses things and actually encourages people to conflate different senses of the way in which someone might use the term objectivity and subjectivity. But whatever, let's get into it. Okay, so what Searle talks about is this. Certain sorts of things, for like ontologically speaking, require there to be minds for them to exist, and certain sorts of things don't. Now, never mind if you agree with Searle about this. You know, if you're an idealist, you might think everything requires minds. So you could endorse a metaphysical view where this Searle's distinction is not true, right? But the point is just that this is a possible way of construing the metaphysical distinction between different sorts of things. Okay, so just bear with me on this. Okay, certain sorts of things, their existence does not require minds in order for them to exist. I think the example Searle gives in his book is mountains, but you could think mountains, trees, planets, stars, atoms, gravity, bosons, neutron stars. Take any type of natural physical object. Those objects don't require minds in order to exist. They would exist even if there were no minds in the universe. So you might ask yourself, what sorts of things existed prior to there being minds, and what sorts of things could exist in the absence of there being any minds in the universe? Those sorts of things do not depend ontologically on there being minds. But then take stuff like happiness or thoughts or attitudes or beliefs or fear. All of those mental states require minds in order for them to exist, to whatever extent you think that they exist, right? That they're real and they're real phenomena. You can't be happy without a mind. Like happiness requires a mind. And so ontologically speaking, minds require certain sorts of, certain sorts of phenomena require minds to exist. So you can see that there's a sort of ontological dependence relation. Certain sorts of phenomena or events or things that exist require minds, certain sorts of things don't. And so we could say that the things that don't require minds are ontologically objective. They objectively exist. And then other sorts of things you could say are ontologically subjective. They require minds in order to exist. Again, I hate this terminology, but whatever, right? So that's one sense. It's a sort of ontological dependence relation. Now let's move over to the other notion, which is the sense in which what is it that makes a propositional claim true? So take a statement, chocolate ice cream is tasty. Now, does it require minds in the ontological sense for chocolate ice cream to be tasty or for it to be gross? Like for someone, not for someone to have no attitude, because rock doesn't have an attitude towards the taste of chocolate ice cream, but like not like you're technically the negation of tasty would be not tasty. And so something can be not tasty to a table or a chair because tables and chairs, things are neither tasty nor like gross to them. So let's use the negation gross, like the negation of tasty in the sense that the thing, we're taking an evaluative stance towards the thing and it's positive or negative. So let's contrast positive with negative rather than positive with not positive. Okay, makes sense? All right, you with me on that? Now, so in order to have an evaluative stance towards the flavor of chocolate ice cream, you have to have a mind, right? To find it tasty or gross, you have to have a mind. So ontologically speaking, that statement is subjective in that sense, right? You have to have a mind to find chocolate ice cream tasty or gross. Now, does that mean that the statement chocolate ice cream is tasty is just thereby a subjective claim? No, it does not. Not in the metanormative sense that is relevant to gastronomic realism, right? Or aesthetic realism. What matters is what is it that makes that claim true, the claim chocolate ice cream is tasty. And that turns critically on what the person making that claim means. Now, what if what makes chocolate ice cream tasty is whether or not chocolate ice cream has the property of intrinsic tastiness? If that's the case, then whether chocolate ice cream is tasty or not doesn't depend, whether the statement chocolate ice cream is tasty doesn't depend on your attitude towards it. And so you need a mind to find it tasty, but it doesn't require a mind for it to be true that it is tasty, independent of anybody finding it tasty. So that's a different sense in which things can be objective or subjective. In the metanormative sense that's relevant here, it's about what it is that makes the propositional claim true. Is it some fact that is independent of or not contingent on a stance, or is it some stance? Or it could be some third alternative like non-cognitivism. In other words, one claim is, do you need a mind in order to have the attitude at all? Yes or no? And then the other question is, what is it that makes this particular claim true or not? Is it the stance itself makes the claim true, or is it not a stance that makes the claim true? And yet it could still be true. So chocolate ice cream is tasty. If what makes chocolate ice cream tasty are the intrinsic properties of chocolate ice cream, then it's, Searle, you'd use the term epistemological objectivity. If what makes it tasty is my attitude towards it, then it's epistemologically subjective. So this is much closer to the relevant sense in which Sean is pitching the question of, are you a moral realist or not? So now let's transpose this over to morality. So take a statement like slavery is wrong. Now, when we unpack that claim, someone could mean it stands independently wrong to own slaves, or slavery stands independently wrong. What that would mean is the fact that slavery is wrong and you ought not own slaves, you're prohibited from owning slaves, that's true independent of anybody's goals, standards, or attitudes. Now, the sense in which it would be subjective, if you're some type of subjectivist or cultural relativist or constructivist or something, would be something like the fact that slavery is wrong or that it's not wrong depends in a certain way, or it's constituted by mental states that they actually make it true. It's not that they're required for the phenomena to exist, but that they actually serve to make the claim itself true in a certain type of dependence relation, where it's the attitude itself that serves as or constitutes the truth making of the claim in question. So like let's take chocolate ice cream is good. In that case, that I find chocolate ice cream good is what makes my statement chocolate ice cream is good true. Why does it make it true? Because if the statement chocolate ice cream is good means something like I like chocolate ice cream, the fact that I like chocolate ice cream is what makes chocolate ice cream good. The fact that I couldn't like it or dislike it unless I had a mind is a separate question. It's just a different question. So it looks like Bart is now conflating this distinction between whether minds are required to entertain a consideration or not, and whether minds, attitudes or values or something make certain sorts of normative claims true or not. Those are two separate questions, and it really looks like he's mixing the two up. And so it looks like he was already mixing up universality, objectivity, and contextualism. So 3 different distinctions. And now it looks like he's making a pretty significant conflation here, where these are just not the same thing. And there'd be a trivial sense, right, in which all beliefs about everything require minds. So my belief that like I'm holding a cup, that requires a mind. So does that make Lance is holding a cup? Does that make that statement subjective? Well, no. Why? Well, it's not my attitude that makes it true that I'm holding a cup. It's the fact that a cup is being held by me that makes it true. That, you could say, okay, but there's a second order sense in which you're choosing to hold the cup. Fine. Because I could set it down. But we could then talk about like the sun. The fact that the sun is very bright or something like that. Well, maybe that's a normative claim. Carbon atoms have 6 protons in the nucleus. So that's right? Okay, I assume that's true. Or water is composed of hydrogen and oxygen. The fact that that is true is not made true by my attitudes. The fact that in order for anyone to believe that that's true requires a mind does not make it subjective in the relevant sort of sense. So sorry to belabor that point, but it looks like Bart is making a mistake here. Devo says vanilla is better. I agree. I actually prefer vanilla over chocolate ice cream. I think surveys keep showing more people prefer chocolate ice cream. I've never particularly liked chocolate ice cream, even though I like ice cream and I like chocolate. For whatever reason, I don't think chocolate ice cream is particularly good. My favorite flavor is peanut butter. Just peanut butter everything. I could do Reese's all day long. So I like vanilla with like chocolate swirls and peanut butter cups in it. All right. I'm checking the chat. So what do I think objective means? I think it means different things depending on the person and the context. I don't know exactly what Bart means here. So Pont says, conversation gets interesting afterwards. At some point they move past the objective subjective distinction, yada, yada, and start talking about metaethics properly. I sure hope so. Just checking the chat, everybody. Okay, I'm still checking the chat because I know I said a lot there. Estelle Pont says, Sean thinks moral realism and common sense view, by the way. He alludes to that in a contingent conversation with Bart almost at the end of it. Okay, well, we'll get to that, hopefully. Jonah says, you mentioned this error the other day in Substack. Which error? Wow, so many comments. Thank you, everybody, for saying so much. Okay, I think I got caught up.
Okay, so I think there might be a confusion between how we know things and whether or not something is actually true. So historical claims in the past, which you claim are objective, we know them. Okay, so let me ask you this. You think some of your views about the New Testament are right and Christians are wrong. Do you hold that view?
Yes.
Okay, so you know that as a subject, you are the one who studies this. And so just because a subject analyzes something doesn't mean they don't think they're true, and it doesn't mean they're not true. So if that's true for history, if that's true for science, why would that not be true for morality? That just because we're subjects engaging in something doesn't mean there's no objective truth, that we can debate and we can discuss and we can kind of analyze.
I agree with Sean here.
I'm saying if there is an objective truth, we have no access to it as subjects. We only have access to what we think is true. And it's not fair to compare history and science because they're very different. They have different modes of establishing their truth claims. Historians can only establish the probabilities of what happened in the past, sometimes with relative certainty, virtual certainty for most of us, and sometimes with great uncertainty. Science isn't about predicting the past or trying to explain the past. It's about predicting the future. If you do a chemical experiment and it comes out a certain way and you redo it 1,000 times, it comes out the same way every time, you use that experiment as a basis then to do the next thing. And so it has predictive value. And so they're dealing with different things. History is dealing with the past and probabilities. Science is based on experimentation for predictive values, different things.
Okay, so I agree with you on the last point that you made, that how we know certain truths in history is different than how we know certain truths in math, but it's also different than how we know certain truths in morality. So if science, we know truths maybe by repeating things and having hypotheses and empirically investigating them, the mere fact that we are subjects trying to know and analyze something in science doesn't mean there's not a truth. Same thing applies to history. We don't examine and study things in the same way that we do scientifically. There's a different means to it, but the mere fact that we are subjects trying to figure out what is historically true doesn't mean there's no objective truth that is there. So my point is that I agree with you.
If there is objective truth, we have no access.
Okay, so my only point so far, and then I'll come back to that because I think the point you're making is really important, is that there's different ways we know truth in science. There's different ways we know truth in history. And the mere fact that we are subjects trying to discover something in different means doesn't follow that there's no truth. That's the only comparison that I made between history and between science and then between morality. And so you said we have no access to moral truth. I guess I'd say a couple things. I don't know what it means to know moral truth through our brains. It makes sense with science because we're studying physical matter, but moral truths are not physical. They're immaterial. They don't have weight. So clearly we're going to access them differently than we do science, just like history accesses things differently than science. So my question is, you said, correct me.
I don't know about that.
If I'm wrong, you said we have no access to moral truth. How do you know that?
It's my opinion, just as yours is your opinion.
Yeah, it doesn't look like Bart wants to engage in this. I think that's fine. So he's just saying it's my opinion. That's kind of a move to say, look, there's a difference in the dialectic between stating your position on the matter and having an interest in and being willing to defend that particular position. It looks like this conversation is kind of going off the rails and Bart is not really interested in going the route of defending these views. And so he's like, look, those are my views on the matter. We know those are your views. What Sean is asking you to do is engage and defend the view. If he doesn't want to do that, I think he could probably say that's not really a view I'm interested in defending. I don't know. I don't want to give advice on how he could diffuse the conversation from going in a direction he doesn't want to go in, but that's my impression here.
Okay, so yes, we have opinions about things. So let me ask a clear one. So most people would agree with this. They would say torturing a child for fun or burning a child alive for adults' pleasure is wrong. Now, I have no problem. I'm about as close to being 100% certain as possible that torturing a child for adult entertainment is wrong. Now,
notice how Sean says he's about as certain as possible that it's wrong. Notice he didn't say objectively wrong. Hey, Sean, I'm a moral anti-realist. There are no stance-independent moral facts. I'm very confident about that. I also think that's wrong. So one problem that I have with moral realists is they consistently shift between using just normative language without making the meta-ethical commitments behind that explicit. And Sean is doing this here. I think that's a no-no. So boom, strike against Sean. It gives the impression that to disagree with a moral realist is to not hold the normative moral standards that they have. Oh, you want to disagree with me as a moral realist? Then you're okay with recreational torture or whatever, which of course is not true. And so realists give this impression about the implications of anti-realism when this is not an implication of anti-realism. And I don't know why they keep doing this. It's sloppy. This is normative entanglement. and they got to stop doing it. So Sean, like go check out my article on normative entanglement. I got YouTube videos on it and stuff. I've even got empirical research supporting that it's a real phenomenon. So normative entanglement occurs, I've been over this many times, so some of you may be bored by this, but it happens to people basically bundle meta-ethical and normative considerations so that it's very hard to reject the meta-ethical considerations without there being at least some pragmatic implication about your normative moral stances. So is it objectively wrong to torture babies? Yes or no? And if you say no, now it sounds like you don't think it's wrong to torture babies, which of course is not an implication of anti-realism. So I think Sean is unwittingly doing that here. And I think it's a very internalized and common rhetorical component in case people try to make for realism, and it's not good. I wish they would stop doing it.
We don't know that the way we know science and history. We know it intuitively and naturally by reflecting upon it. So do you agree with me that burning a child alive for adult entertainment is wrong?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a good response. Yes.
Okay, so I guess I'm confused because you said...
How are you confused, Sean? Again, moral anti-realist here. You asked a normative moral question. Is it wrong? So, Sean, think about it this way. Imagine you ask somebody, hey, do you think whether food is good or bad is objective? And they go, no. And then you go, okay, well, do you think vanilla ice cream is good? And they go, yes. Would you then go, oh, I'm confused. I thought you don't think food is subjectively good or bad. They don't. They still think things are good or bad. They still think that vanilla ice cream is good in some non-objective sense. So there's no problem with Bart saying, I do not think morality is objective. And then you ask a normative moral question about whether he thinks torture is wrong. And he just goes, yes, I think it's wrong. No problem from Bart on this. So now Sean, I'm not trying to take sides here. Sean is messing this up, man. That's a normative question. It's not a meta-ethical question. You didn't put any you didn't say objectively wrong. Why not? Why didn't you say that? Right? So like, what is going on here? It's very frustrating to see this.
It's only a matter of opinion, but now you agree that this is wrong.
I didn't say that was a matter of opinion. I'm saying you and I have opinions about things.
Sure.
If you have an opinion, I have an opinion. What's the objective truth? The objective truth is we have different opinions. But how do you use objective truth?
Well, wouldn't there also be an objective truth about the consideration? So was there ever life on Mars? So one person's opinion is yes, one person's opinion is no. One objective truth is that one person's opinion is yes and one person's opinion is no. There's also an objective truth about whether or not there was life on Mars. Like presumably Bart doesn't consider that a subjective matter.
In order to establish that you're right about either a historical claim or a moral claim, and that I'm empirically wrong.
How do I do that?
You have to figure it out. You're doing it by your reason. You're thinking about it.
That's right.
Other people think about it and have different views. Not about everything. Most people do agree that when if they were seeing me here, they'd agree I was sitting in a chair. Mm-hmm. I am sitting in a chair. Yeah.
Me too.
But what good does it do to say that there are moral objectives unless you can isolate all of them?
Moral objectives. Yeah, it's a weird way of phrasing it. It makes it sound like he's not familiar with the terminology. What good is it unless you could have, what did he say exactly?
Chair. Mm-hmm. I am sitting in a chair. Yeah.
Me too.
But what good does it do to say that there are moral objectives unless you can isolate all of them?
Unless you can isolate all of them. Isolate them. What does he mean by that? This is very obscure. It's just unclear what he's saying here.
Why would we have to be able to isolate all of them?
Why would we need to be able to isolate all of them? Right? So if I ask you, do snakes exist? And you say yes. And I say, oh, but have you isolated all of them? What is that? First of all, that's obscure what that means. But would you have to identify every type of snake in order to say snakes exist? Presumably not. Why would you have to identify and isolate every single moral fact in order to say moral facts exist? He's just asking Bart whether he thinks moral realism is true or not. I don't understand why this should not be, and they're 19 minutes in, and I think they started around 3 minutes. So 16 minutes. The answer is yes or no. This should not be that complicated. Yeah, as Sal Ponce says, I love from that point on, Bart handles Sean's confused questions in a very nonchalant and proper way. He's tonally proper, but I still think Bart is also confused here. So now I think we've just got two people kind of groping around blindly and not really having a clear sense of what's going on here.
If there's one thing that's morally wrong, that's all we need. Then we have
I think it is morally
objective
wrong.
moral truth.
But it's not because of objectivity.
Okay, let me take a step back. I'm not sure I'm following your
Wait, what?
one thing that's morally wrong. That's all we need. Then we have
I think it is morally
objective
wrong.
moral truth.
But it's not because of objectivity.
I'm not understanding him there. Are you understanding what he's saying?
All of them. If there's one thing that's morally wrong, that's all we need. Then we have
I think it is morally
objective
wrong.
moral truth.
He's not coming up in that. Yeah, I don't know what he's saying.
But
I
it's
don't
not because
understand.
of objectivity.
Okay, let me take a step back. I'm not sure I'm following your point. You said we can't know certain moral truths unless we know that all moral truths, like you kind of made a universal statement about the number of moral truths we have to say. I'm simply saying
No.
if
No,
there's
no, you mis-
one,
you
let me make
misconstrued me.
this
You
point. If there's
Okay, but
one,
you misconstrued me. That's not what I said.
okay, then correct me. I didn't want to misstate you. Go ahead.
I didn't say that. I said that if you think there are objectively moral facts, why can't you isolate them?
I don't know
I
what
didn't
it
say they
means.
couldn't exist if they couldn't exist. I didn't say that. I said if they are there, why can't you name them?
Okay, so I certainly don't want to misstate your argument. Thank you for correcting that. But I don't know what it means to isolate them. I can state them.
You
And
gave
it
one
seems that
example.
you agreed with me that torturing a child for adult entertainment is wrong. That's a universal moral truth.
So now Sean uses the term universal, not objective. So Sean's being sloppy with the terminology. So it sounds like Sean's point here is, look, we wouldn't need to like have the full list of what all of them were. Like, imagine if I said elements exist and someone goes, really? Well, can you isolate all of the elements? Can you give me the entire periodic table? And I go, no, but I can isolate hydrogen. Here's some hydrogen. Okay, well, I've established that elements exist. End of discussion. Like, it doesn't matter if I could say, I don't know how to synthesize argon or potassium. I don't know how to do it. Maybe we can't do it. I don't know how to figure out we haven't finished the periodic table. I don't know what else is on it, right? I don't know what all the isotopes are. Doesn't matter. As soon as you find one, you win, because the position is just elements exist. If you find at least one element, you win. Same thing with moral realism. If you find one objective stance independent moral fact, you win. So look, I'm always hard on realists, but I'm just on the realist side on this. This isolate all of them thing is a bizarre request. I don't think it makes much sense. I don't think this is very clear at all.
No, I don't think it is.
Okay. You don't
In the
think
ancient
that's
world, no. In the ancient world, for example, people who were also human beings often practiced child sacrifice. It was often very painful. They thought it was the right thing to do. Now, you could claim they didn't understand the objective truths of morality. Or you could say that actually, this moral truth that we thought was objective and available to everybody was not available to them.
Or we could say, a third option, they did have a moral sense, and this would get us into Lewis's argument, that you seem to agree that there's at least certain universal or commonly experienced, maybe we won't use the word universal, commonly experienced moral principles, such.
So this is where I think Bart could have the upper hand, which is Bart is alluding here to, as far as I understand it, it's not the case that it sounds like Bart is making an epistemological objection here. And I do think that's underwriting this. I think he's presenting this in an exceptionally sloppy and confused way. But there might be an underlying point here, which could be a decent one, which is if there were objective moral truths, there wouldn't be a method by which we could know about them. And he did, to be fair, he has said stuff like that, but he's kind of mixing that in with other sorts of things, which I think makes it confusing what exactly he's saying. Now, if that's his position, and then he points to historical examples of people that had radically different normative moral standards and says, look, if people universally had access to these moral facts, why didn't this entire population of people or this entire ancient civilization share the same normative moral standards as us? They had radically different standards that by conventional attitudes are abhorrent and disgusting and horrible and heinous. It'd be like if I said everybody can see fairies or everybody could speak to God, and people in my culture can, but like there's whole historical communities that are like, what the hell are you talking about? We don't see fairies. We can't talk to God. That would be pretty good indication that people don't have a shared capacity for detecting or seeing them. And that might start to raise debunking questions about whether this capacity, this alleged capacity, is a contingent one, on whether there really aren't these sort of universal epistemic means available to people. Now, Sean seems to believe that there are certain things that are universal, and that's where this becomes an empirical question about human psychology, and I think Sean would lose this round.
As that you seem to agree with.
Let's get back to this.
Or we could say a third option. They did have a moral sense. And this would get us into Lewis's argument that you seem to agree with that there's at least certain universal or commonly experienced, maybe we won't use the word universal, commonly experienced moral principles, such as for posterity, caring for our kids, such as.
Yeah, so I don't know that any of those would necessarily be construed even broadly as moral principles. So people all through history have raised their children, cared for their children, been good to one another, helped one another. To what extent have they distinctively construed that in moral terms, where moral norms are understood to be a particular kind of norm? Well, we need to ask questions. What distinguishes moral norms from non-moral norms? Okay, well, once we have at least some idea of what distinguishes moral norms from non-moral norms, now we need evidence that the sense in which people cared about family or cared for their children or helped the other people that needed it. To what extent did they construe those actions in moral terms rather than terms of about compassion or terms of concern? Or, do you have to have moral standards to care for your children? You could care for your children because you want to, because you like your children, because you love them and you care about them and you don't want bad things to happen to them. That doesn't require morality. So I do not think morality has been present in all cultures historically or even possibly contemporaneously. I really don't think so. And again, if someone thinks there's evidence of that, fucking present it. I haven't seen it myself. So someone would say, "Oh, you haven't seen it yourself. It appeal to incredulity." I'm the one that studies moral psychology, not most of the people I'm talking to. So, I've looked into the research on this and I've concluded the opposite of this. So, like, for instance, the moral terminology, some languages don't have cognate terms. You can't just say moral in their language. They don't have a word for it. They have their own normative terminology. Then there's research by Edward Mashery, Stephen Stitch, and other people that attempts to offer a insight into how one might go about distinguishing moral from non-moral norms in a principled way. And what they conclude is this is catastrophically failed, both on the part of psychologists and the part of philosophers over the 20th century and into the present. So you have papers like Delineating the Moral Domain and work by Stitch and Mashery, which shows, I think, some good preliminary reasons to suspect, I'm not saying it's a settled matter, but good reasons to suspect that the notion of morality is historically contingent. It only emerged in some cultures and not others. It's not a part of a shared evolutionary psychology. And it's not the case that everybody everywhere has moral senses. It's just not. Now, Sean has not said everybody, but he's now, okay, so now it's vague. How many people? Which people? Under what circumstances? Is this an innate thing or is it a culturally acquired thing? I don't know the answer to those questions. I don't know what Sean thinks about that.
Loving others in a certain fashion, mercy, justice, these seem to transcend culture. So I have no problem. Let me make this quick one.
Yeah, so he says they transcend culture. Is it the attitudes and the behavior that transcends culture or moralization of the attitudes and behavior? That's an important distinction. So like orangutans care for their children. Are they moralizing it? Do they think they have a moral duty to do it? No. That historical populations of human beings have cared for their children does not indicate that they all had moral standards specifically.
I have no problem pointing back to those who sacrifice their kids, practice cannibalism, some of the things that we see in the Old Testament, and saying, oh, they were doing what was morally wrong. And they should have known better because they have access to basic moral principles. And we have morally improved since that time. I have no problem saying that. And I think the vast majority of people would be with me, just like our science is better, our history is better. We have made moral progress from that time. Sounds like you disagree.
Well, if you're talking about people who are listening to the podcast, yeah, probably so. If you're talking moral philosophers, probably not. So
Hold on, let me catch that again.
Sounds like you disagree.
Well, if you're talking about people who are listening to the podcast, yeah, probably so. If you talk to moral philosophers, probably not. So
What? Hold on. Sorry, everybody. Sorry, I'm not.
I have no problem saying that. And I think the vast majority of people would be with me, just like our science is better, our history is better. We have made moral progress from that time. Sounds like you disagree.
Well, if you're talking about people who are listening to the podcast, yeah, probably so. If you talk to moral philosophers.
Okay, so it sounds like Sean is saying there's been objective moral progress. And it sounds like Bart is saying, for people listening to your podcast, they probably agree with you. That seems reasonable.
Philosophers, probably not.
So then he says, if you're talking about philosophers, probably not. is Bart implying that most philosophers are not moral realists? Because if so, he'd be wrong about that. So we have the survey data on this, and you've all seen it on this channel many times before. Look up the 2020 Phil Paper survey. Philosophers were surveyed on whether they're moral realists or not. 62% said yes, 26% said no. More than double the amount of philosophers endorse moral realism over anti-realism. And I say this as an anti-realist who doesn't really care about that fact very much, but it is true. And so if someone is implying that most philosophers would reject moral realism, that wouldn't be true.
So I agree that humans have certain inclinations that absolutely tell us that something is right and wrong. That doesn't mean that there's some kind of objective standard there. It means that this is our inclination as human beings.
Okay, so let me ask this. This is helpful, by the way. I'm going to come back to this point about inclination, but in your book, you make two claims. One, you talk about you embrace your beliefs because you think they're superior. Otherwise, you wouldn't embrace them. And by the way,
yeah, so let me address this. So Andrew Moy says, McDowell is specifically talking about moral progress. It's possible, if not plausible, that realists don't think there's been moral progress. I don't think that that's plausible. So 62% are moral realists. How plausible is it that a substantial number of them do not think that the moral standards of people today are better than the moral standards of people 1,000 years ago? Right? What is that? 1 or 2% of those people? I doubt it's very much at all. So yeah, I don't think so. I think they would agree that if they're realists, that there's been progress.
Way, I'm with you. That's what it means to hold a belief. There's nothing elitist about that. I don't fault you for that. But then in page 76, you talk about progress we have made since our ancient forebears. So if it's all opinion and there's no standard by which we judge, I don't know what
So that's bizarre. So Sean is messing up here. So if it's all opinion and there's no standard by which we judge, non sequitur, Sean, it does not follow that if it's subjective, there's no standard by which we judge, or if it's all opinion, there's no standard by which we judge. It just means that the standards by which you judge are not objective. They're not stance independent. Does Sean think you can have no standards for evaluating how good food is? Or think about sports or art or any other thing. People can create standards of evaluation. They could rely on their preferences, emotions, or personal values. Being an anti-realist does not mean that you don't have standards of evaluation. So there's nothing contradictory or weird about Bart saying that there's been moral progress. You can have progress relative to a standard. I've talked about this many times. This is a common misconception on the part of moral realists, where they seem to think progress can only be progress according to an objective standard of progress. That's ridiculous, and they're wrong about this. And they're wrong about this even if they're moral realists, because people can, okay, does Sean think I can't make progress in the gym? So I can make progress with respect to achieving certain fitness goals I set for myself. Like I can make progress with running a certain amount of miles per day. Or if he thinks that that's like health issues are objective, fine. A person can make progress on being a better chef or being a better artist, or make progress within a video game, or make progress on getting better at performing a certain kind of music in a way that people like more. So it's trivially easy to make progress with respect to self-chosen subjective goals that you have no obligation to make, and that don't involve evaluative standards that are stance independently good or bad. They just turn on the evaluative standards of whoever's making the progress. In other words, you could obviously make progress relative to a standard, even if you think that there are objective standards too that you can make progress towards or regress with respect to. You could still clearly make progress with respect to relative standards. So when a person says, look, I don't think there's any objective standards of progress, but I do think that there are relative standards of progress, it's very weird to just presume that progress just presupposes objective standards, when it's clearly already the case that people have subjective standards of progress. We already use them all the time, and they're totally ubiquitous in society. So this is another case where it looks to me like realists suffer from a couple things. One is that I think a lot of them parrot the objections that they've heard previously. So realists build up this like repertoire of canned objections to anti-realism, and they just trot them out over and over and over. And what's happened is that nobody seems to be prepared to deal with these objections. You won't see Sean being very effectively challenged by people like me. I don't think he's ever been challenged by people like me. I don't think William Lane Craig has. I don't think other people have. And I think that they have gone so long without being challenged by people like me. I predict they'd be quite dismissive if they were. I think William Lane Craig would scoff at me if I said most people aren't moral realists, even though Craig will just make sweeping claims about everybody being a realist with zero empirical evidence and no particularly good reason to think it. Meanwhile, I've spent over a decade doing empirical research on this and working on it personally for over 10 years. The psychology of metaethics. I know all about it. I wrote my dissertation on it. I'm a specialist on it. Craig is not. I am much more of an expert on the question of whether people are realists than Craig is. And yet I think he would scoff at me. I hope he wouldn't, but I think he would. But this is a very frustrating thing because there's not good evidence that most people are realists. And yet people continue to make claims like that in a total information vacuum. It's very bizarre. So this idea that realists have that you can't make progress as an anti-realist, there's no good argument for that. It's just, if you bake in the notion of objectivity into your notion of progress, obviously anti-realists can't have stance-independent progress, but I don't see any conceptual reason why they couldn't have stance-dependent progress. Thank you, Devos.
Superior and progress even means.
No, you don't? You don't believe in progress? Because earlier you said we progressed in terms of history and science.
Okay, so that's not my point. I said I don't believe in it. Let me clarify again. I'm saying from your perspective, and correct me if I don't explain this right, there's not an objective moral standard outside of us. We've been wired by evolution to have certain inclinations that feel absolute to us, but they're not actually.
So he says that they feel absolute to us. Again, absolute is a different term. For the love of God, why can't people use consistent terminology? So Sean is using universal, absolute, objective, and realist, all to refer to the same notion. Why? Pick a term and use it consistently, because all of those terms are used to refer to other concepts in metaethics. Why would you just mix and match like that all randomly? It's bizarre and confusing. But also, Sean, again, it's an empirical question whether most people are moral realists or not. There is zero good empirical evidence that most people across cultures are historically like perceived morality as objective, or that they were moral realists, or that they spoke or thought like realists. There's just not actually any good evidence that that's true. So realists just constantly say this and they don't have any case for it.
Absolute. That's the explanation for morality I see in your book. And yet twice in the book, you talk about, you embrace your beliefs because you think they are superior. And then on page 76, you talk about moral progress we've made since our ancient forebears. I believe that certain morality is superior. I think the morality of Jesus is superior because I think we do have an obligation to care for the poor. I think people are made in God's image. And I think we've made progress. So moving beyond slavery, moving beyond cannibalism, moving beyond these kinds of things is progress. But from the ethic you've laid out, insofar as I understand it, I don't understand what superior or progress means any more than I've made progress in the kind of ice cream flavor that I like. If it's all subjective, what does superior and progress even mean?
So this seems to be an issue that you're very intent upon. You and I share a human DNA that has been transformed over the centuries because of the way culture developed. If you yourself think you have access to moral absolutes, which I think you believe you do have access to them. Is that correct? You think that you have access to them?
Again, absolutes. Absolute, objective, stance independent, realist, universal. Pick consistent terminology, please, for the love of God.
Yeah, I would use the term objective moral truths, but I'm with you in general. Go.
As opposed to, what did I say? I thought I said objective.
I'm quibbling. Sorry. I tend to not use the term absolute for an issue you raised earlier.
Good. Thank you, Sean. It's good. I like that Sean is trying, at least at this point, to be a little more consistent with the terminology, although I don't think he's consistently been consistent on this.
That I think murder is wrong.
Yeah, you think they're objective moral truths, right?
Yes.
And you admit that in different cultures, they have different views of what those objective moral truths are.
Thank you. Okay.
Different cultures.
Thank you. Yes, it's look, I've been shitting on them for a while now. And sorry, I don't know if Sean's going to see this. I know the Christian channels, they don't want to have profanity. I'm sorry about that. It's natural for me to use profanity. Sorry, dude. And sorry for calling you dude. I got a headache. I was about to say dude again. I don't feel good. If you saw the first part of the stream, I'm recovering from an endless stream of illnesses. I could say why. So I have an awesome daughter. We put her in daycare. She's been bringing home everything. I have a medical issue which causes me to have like sinus and ear issues. And so every time she gets sick, I get just a cascade. I get all the illnesses every time. So I'm sorry if I'm not 100% on point today. Ooh, and I'm going for a while here too. Man, my y'all should appreciate my dedication to doing this, because I'm doing this almost when I don't want to. Which maybe you'd say, well, then don't do it. But I don't know. This is my personal crusade. But anyway, I appreciate now both Sean saying, look, absolute, let's stick with objective, and then Bart saying absolute, oh, okay, I mean objective. So there's an effort here on their part to start using the language consistently. I really appreciate that. So good job for them for doing that.
Cultures have different views of moral objective truths.
I think different cultures have common moral principles that transcend culture.
Why can't Sean just acknowledge this? Different cultures have different views on what the objective moral truths are. It shouldn't be that complicated to acknowledge that.
These are principles that are universal or near universal, even though the practices may vary, which is what we would expect.
Okay.
And so all I'm asking, go ahead.
One of my top moral priorities is to help people who are hungry and homeless.
Okay.
And I think that for me, that is a very kind of core moral value. And I try to act on it. That moral value was not in evidence for the vast majority of the 300,000 years that Homo sapiens have been in existence. Mm. And so if you want to say that we all have those moral values, I think history would show you that you're wrong. That in fact, those moral values have been around. That particular moral value as being like a high importance to help those in need has been around for about 1,800 years out of the 300,000 years that humans have existed. So I don't think we all have the same moral code.
Okay, so a couple things. You said your moral value is to help the hungry and the homeless, and that's when you deeply...
Yeah, they're getting into normative stuff I don't care about. So Sapir says, man, this rhetoric that is entirely dependent on conflating normative and metanormative language is exhausting. Yeah, and you're calling it rhetoric. I think Sean and Bart are trying their best to have a totally open and serious conversation here. I think Sean has taken the conversation in a direction Bart is not that interested. I don't think this is the conversation he wanted to have. And if that had happened to me, I could find myself slightly frustrated in giving somewhat curt answers. I may not give the best answers because I would have less investment in the conversation. And so I think Bart is doing quite well for seeming to me to not be super invested in this conversation. I think if I were similarly as uninvested as he appears to me to be, that I would give, like if we were grading a person's responses and answers, I think I would do worse than he is doing here. So good job, Bart. On the other hand, I don't think Sean is doing anything wrong. He's taken the conversation where he wants to take it. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. So I think there's kind of a mismatch in vibe here and a mismatch in where people wanted the conversation to go. And I think it's caused a little bit of tension and frustration, but they're both quite professional and they're handling it, again, better than I would. So it is nice to see two mature adults having a serious conversation online. I think they're fumbling it a bit, but ultimately I think this is a good conversation. I think we're seeing this is how people should talk to one another. They're not yelling. They're not getting into this is not like that shit you see in so many conversations where people get nasty and start hurling insults at each other. I hate that so much. So Sapir, on the one hand, it is exhausting to me for people to be imprecise. On the other, I do think that the overall vibe here is I think they're handling an unfortunate mismatch in conversational intent as best as they both can. Put it that way. And so it's a little frustrating to watch that. I want people to be on the same level with one another. All right. Devo says, I hate when Lance apologizes. About what? Well, look, about the stuff I was apologizing, like having a headache and not feeling well. Well, I'm self-conscious about that stuff, and I'm not going to pretend that I'm not. I'm not going to go on here and like, look, I put the camera on and I just let myself be however I'm going to be. There's not a filter. There's certain sorts of, well, I will tell you, there's an internalized filters to not really talk about most of my personal life and about politics. So there are some filters I've really managed to keep down the cognitive pipeline so fundamentally that it's outside of conscious awareness. But mostly it's just untapped who I am, unfiltered who I am. And yeah, so, and if I'm feeling, I don't feel like I'm doing as well as I normally do, I'm going to say it. And if that's awkward or some people don't like it, oh, you're going to have to deal with that. Because I'm not going to be here. What I'm not going to do is self-monitor to the point where I start trying to say the things that are going to most please my audience. And that would just make it really awkward. And I would increasingly internalize a kind of fake persona to be, I don't want audience capture. I'm going to say exactly what the hell I want. And if people in the I'm totally fine with you saying that you don't like when I apologize, but in the nicest possible terms, I don't care that you don't like it. Too bad. I'm going to do exactly what I want to do, and I will not change it based on what people say in the chat, unless I agree with it. Like, unless someone says, "Hey, you're saying too much. You should stop doing that." I would agree if I were doing that a lot, and then I would try to stop doing it. So everything has to get filtered through how I want to be and what I want to do here. And I'm not going to adjust my personality or the way I talk, and if I feel self-conscious about something, I'm going to say so if I feel like it. So I hope that's something you can respect. And if it's not something you respect, guess what? I don't care. So you'll just have to deal with it. And I'm not saying that to be rude. I'm saying it like I mean that hopefully it's coming through that I mean that in a positive way. Like, you're welcome to express your attitude, and I receive your attitude and acknowledge it. Okay. All right. Yeah, someone's asking about Bart thinking altruism arose recently. Oh, wait, somebody gave me a super chat. I'm still getting caught up in the chat. Sip Logic. It seems that Sean does. And by the way, thank you very much. I super duper appreciate it. So let's scroll down to that. Sip Logic says, it seems that, and again, thank you. I appreciate it. And by the way, everybody, I don't know if you know, but when you give money on YouTube, they actually don't let you cash it out unless you've gotten more than 100. And I don't think that I have. At least I didn't last year. And so I still have money sitting in there that I can't get. So there is that. And another thing, it's really frustrating that I am down to 6 paid subscribers on Substack, and I think I have a few on Patreon. I thought, because I've now had a blog, a YouTube channel, a TikTok, all this stuff for a few years. I thought I would be making more money now, and I'm not. And I am starting to wonder because, I was talking to my wife about this because she thinks I post too much stuff on meta ethics, and she thinks that the repetitiveness of the content is Sean or Sip Logic. Sorry, Sean, like I'm talking to Sean. Sip Logic, I'll get to your thing, but I got to finish this thought because it's in my head. She thinks it's too repetitive, and that if I cover other topics, that it will expand my the readership, and I'll get more support and that sort of thing. And I think that's probably right. So what I started doing is going through my Substacks and then seeing which things get likes and shares. And so it's like meta ethics, 2 comments, 1 restack, right? Some non-meta ethics thing, 14 restacks, 53 likes. I keep seeing this pattern. It's not usually that extreme, but I keep seeing a pattern like that. And I'm like, all right. So, yeah, maybe I need to do some more stuff besides meta ethics if I want to have this be like a successful supplemental income, which would be nice. But what I don't want to do is start producing content like for a profit. Like, I want to do exactly what I want to do. And so if I'm open to trying new things and I like doing them, I'll do them. And if people want to support me for that, great. If they don't, that's their prerogative. I can't put myself in the mindset of being a salesperson or a business person and like soliciting people in that way. Maybe it's okay to do that. I don't know. Anyway. Oh, good. Yeah. Sometimes when you're doing these, there's like on a timer, but it was on a timer across the top. But Sip Logic, I'll throw it up on here because I got the StreamYard tools. So Sip Logic says, it seems that Sean doesn't want to admit Bart's stance because it would admit evolution, and his Biola affiliation cannot let him admit it. Maybe, I don't know. So I don't know how. So I don't know how often you watch my channel, but I'm usually pretty wary about trying to impute motives on people, and so I don't know if that's what Sean is doing or not. It could be, but I don't know. But in any case, thank you either way. Dennis says, I love a political chat. You don't want to hear me talking about that. It's not my thing. So public class philosopher says, Lance, I hate X about you. Now change just for me. No, thank you. Starless says, I think metaethics doesn't likely come naturally for many people. I'll catch myself slipping into normativity sometimes without meaning to. It takes practice for me. I think this is 100% true. And I think this is borne out in the empirical data that I've gathered. I think people slip into their normative considerations. I don't have this problem, but I eat, sleep, and breathe metaethics, so that shouldn't be surprising. So, and yeah, I saw the earlier comments, people asking about books. You're just going to have to wait on that. Deva says, oh, bro, I didn't mean apologize anymore. I was just saying don't apologize for cussing. Well, so I would like Christian apologists to cover my channel, and I don't want them to be discouraged by the use of profanity. And it just kind of comes out of me. It comes from directly from my soul, right? So my soul is just profane. I'm joking, Christians. But like that's I can't avoid it unless I wanted to self-monitor too much, and then this would be unpleasant for me. Jacobs Tyson says, you will if you take on debates if you want. I don't know who are you referencing? Is that from Lord of the Rings? It is. Okay. Deva says, I wonder if you were to venture out in an area of metaethics, like perhaps in politics, you could grow the following for your meta stuff. Possibly. It's possible that I could. I'm not going to do that. And I can tell you why. If you go into something like politics, it's too first of all, I don't have an interest in that. I don't want to. But let's say I did for the clicks and the money, right? I'm just like, oh man, I really need the money. It's not going to happen, but let's say I did that. Okay, so then I'm going to have to deal with the hostility, the anger, the yelling, the screaming, and the unpleasantness. I can't psychologically handle it. I just couldn't do it. It would be disastrous for my mental health. I already have health issues. I couldn't handle that. It wouldn't be good for me. And I would probably quit very soon, and I would just withdraw. So it's never going to happen. I'm just not able to do that. So I'm sorry. Actually, I'm not even sorry. I'm sorry in the sense that, like, I'm saying sorry, like I'm not going to do that. But anyway. SIP logic is continuing. Biola requires a statement of faith that requires the fact that the Bible is without mistake, including creation. I'm not saying he doesn't accept it. He cannot accept it publicly. It would be like a Catholic denying Virgin Mary. Fair enough. Yeah, so I do understand that, Sean, there may be public-facing ideological commitments he's obligated to express or to abstain from expressing for various reasons, and that he can't necessarily speak his mind. A lot of us have professional constraints on what we can and can't say. So, Super Marlock says, "What's up, Lance?" in all caps. Okay, not much. I'm reviewing a video. What else do I do on here anymore? Yeah, so Mr. Puss says politics would be the ultimate money thing, but the consequences would be disruptive and annoying. It's also funny because, when I listen to people, so many people are just profoundly misinformed and have stupid or terrible takes. So I do think I could stomp a lot of people if I were into doing those kind of debates. But like if I could stand it psychologically, I could barely stand what I currently do. So I mean, politics is what 100,000 times worse. I don't know if it's not that much worse, but it's more than 10 times worse. So it's not going to happen. Right. See, I don't think I know politics Hubert that hasn't gotten death threats. Absolutely not. So, there are people that have more pop philosophy type YouTube channels, but I'm not interested in pop philosophy. So, like, I'm not going to do a video on let's give a basic overview of Hume. Let's give a basic overview of Nietzsche. Like, I love that people do it. It's just not my thing. I don't want to do it. I have nothing against that. I think it's great. I have no interest in doing that. All right. Lance is a rootledge meta-ethics introduction, a good intro in your opinion. I don't remember offhand if I've read it, and if so, what I thought about it, but I've never seen a good. Well, there are books that I would consider not really introductions that are good, and then there's like introductory stuff I've seen that's bad. So I haven't seen something that would be considered both good and an introduction. You could post a comment, comment on the video, or throw a link in here, and I'll look it up and see what I think of it. Yeah, it might be something I've read and I don't remember offhand. Yeah, see, this is another thing. Ben Singleton says, most political discussions online are like playing pigeon chess. I don't want to get involved in that shit. I think it's a bunch of shit. When is the last debate you did? Is from Devos. The last debate I did was, I don't know if it's public or not, but it was recorded a week or two ago. I want to say a week or two ago, but I think about a week ago, and it hasn't, or it's been about 10 days. It was on a Wednesday. So about 10 days, Wednesday. Yeah, about 10 days ago. But it hasn't been made public yet. So it's on a channel where they have rolling episodes. And so it just hasn't come out yet. Holy crap. I don't, 50, are those euros? That's a lot of money. If that's what that is, I don't know what currency this is, because I don't feel like using my brain for that right now. But amazing. Thank you very much. That's incredible. Cool. Thank you. Let's have a look at this. Look, sir, I'm a utilitarian, but I love your content. So gift you to have money to draw out, hopefully. Oh, that's not why I said that. Although I think I have to admit, part of the back of my mind was hoping if I did say it, you know what, part of my mind was, part of I was motivated to say that is like, I'm really hoping if people know that I can't cash out, that people will throw some money my way. So I got to be honest and say that was part of my motivation. But I am a little awkward about saying, hey, support the channel. I will say, for all of you, I do have a Substack and I do have a Patreon, and you can go support me in there if you want to. I hope it's not too awkward or weird for me to let you know that that's an option. And I especially, and here's why, Devos, because you're saying don't apologize for things. I've been really inconsistent lately. Like, I haven't even been on here for 2 weeks, and I've been less, like, I used to blog 5 or 6 blog posts a month. Now I'm down to a couple a month. And then I was gone for a while because of medical stuff and having a baby. I'm trying to keep in the game with the baby and all. I'm gonna have to go upstairs, in probably 30 minutes or less. I got a family to take care of. So I got the family obligations, and also I just like spending time with her. It's a lot of work, but I like spending time with her. I mean, it's great. It's great. I don't want to talk too much about her on the channel, though. I don't know if that's something I really want to get into. I mean, it's personal life stuff, but she's awesome. Having kids, I'm enjoying being a father. I really like it. And I gotta be honest, I wasn't sure that I would be enjoy. Sorry, I was not sure that I would enjoy being a father, and I do, and I'm very glad of that, because I am not easy to deal with if I'm frustrated by something and it's not something I want to do. Okay, so anyway, safe logic to address this. So for many, many years, I was kind of loosely affiliated with effective altruism as a movement. I was like, I'm an effective altruist. I never got really in with the in crowd very much, but I spent time with some of the people. I did a little bit of research on the psychology of charitable giving, and I consider myself an effective altruist and also a utilitarian. So this goes back over 20 years. I was just, your full-on classical hedonic utilitarian, just your standard run-of-the-mill view of utilitarianism. And I had no problem accepting all like the weird implications, like that we would have to build utilitronium or hedonium or whatever, and there would have to be a hedonium shockwave, and we fill the universe with all these like happiness bots. And I used to be like, yeah, that's what I would do. Over time, and I was an anti-realist the whole time too, so I don't think the anti-realism caused me to lose interest in the utilitarianism. But and let me take this off the screen since I'm just talking about other stuff right now, and we'll bring it back if I get back to it. Over time, and I don't recall exactly how this happened, because I was a utilitarian for probably about 15 to 20 years, right, from the time I was a teenager until my 30s, and then sometime in my mid 30s, so 5 or 6 years ago, it started to recede so much behind the scenes that I almost didn't notice that I stopped being a utilitarian. And then at some point, I'm like, I don't really think I'm a utilitarian anymore. Now, all that being said, I do think, and by the way, I'm addressing utilitarianism because you said you're a utilitarian, and you just threw a bunch of money my way. So I'm going to talk about this topic. I hope you would want that. I don't know. So I don't know what caused this, but I think part of it is just gradually I came to be less and less interested in having a systematized normative moral theory. And I started thinking, look, I have values. They're not particularly systematic. They're not particularly principled. And I don't think that there's some secret underlying normative theoretic commitment that is underwriting all of my moral values. I think I just care about stuff, and there's stuff I care about, stuff I don't care about. Like I care more about my family than random people. I care more about my daughter than strangers. I'm not going to feed my daughter to a utility monster. That thing could go fuck itself. I would punch that thing right in the face. But I would maximize utility if I eat your daughter. If I eat your daughter, I'll get a bazillion utilons or whatever. Yeah, fuck you. I don't care. I'm not getting. Nope. I don't want to maximize utility. I don't want to. My daughter's more important than me than the bliss of some stupid cosmic space monster that wants to eat babies. So I'm just not a utilitarian anymore. But I will say this. I still respect utilitarianism as a position. I think of the normative moral theories that are out there on offer in contemporary analytic philosophy, it kicks the crap out of deontology. I don't really have a problem with virtue ethics because I think it could kind of be rolled in to utilitarianism. But yeah, deontology, boo. Utilitarianism, yay. I don't like preference utilitarianism, average utilitarianism, negative utilitarianism. Not a fan of those. But hey, they're fellow travelers in the utilitarian camp, so I'm happy with that. I don't like those objective list views. I think those are stupid. So utilitarianism is like a view I'm still sympathetic to, and which is why these days I say I'm a retired utilitarian. So I think it's a bad rap by people that have, I think the objections to it are typically bad. I think people like Richard Yetter Chappell does a good job of saying, look, a lot of the objections, they don't really withstand scrutiny very well. And I generally agree with that. So, I'm pretty sympathetic to utilitarianism despite not endorsing it anymore. And I appreciate your comment. Let's see. That's quite a ways up the chain. Man, so much activity today. Yeah. So Starless says, focusing on your genuine interests is necessary to avoid audience capture and protect your own sanity. Now, here's what I will say, and I have thought about this. I've thought about bringing people on to talk about video games. I don't know if you all recall or if you didn't see my discussion with Henry Shevlin. Now, Shevlin made a Twitter post a tweet or an X. I don't know what you call them these days. He made a comment about relativism, and I brought him on to talk about relativism. And then we just ended up talking about video games because it turns out we have the same preferences in video games and all kinds of other games. So we ended up talking about games and I love video games and I love thinking about video games. I love, in another life, because when I think about what would I have done if I didn't go into academia, this is not jokes. The other options are pastry chef and video game designer. And again, not a joke. Not going to be a pastry chef. I'm too much of, if my life had gone a different route, then maybe I wouldn't have the hangups that I do now. But, let me get to the other, and I'll return to the career choice thing. So we'll get down to Starless, who threw $20 at me. Thank you very much, Starless. I really appreciate it. Thank you, everybody. But again, do check out the Patreon and the Substack. And there is, and not even just for considering supporting me. So the Patreon is just if you want to go in there, and that's just a method to support me. You can subscribe for the Substack, but I made all the posts free again, so everybody could see them. And I think I'm going to keep it that way. I don't want to do the paid post stuff. But you can support me on Substack. That might be a little easier to use these days if you want to sign up. I think, also I lowered the annual subscription fee because you could make it pretty low. And so the annual one is now the cheapest one. I forget maybe they lowered it to 30. I don't know, but it's not that expensive. But you're not getting a bunch of extra content from me. I just make content. So it would just be for supporting me. So I'm very sorry. And then eventually, my plan was I eventually, if I get 10,000 subscribers, to start a merch store or something. I'm very far away from that. So it might be something I do eventually. And I know I'm saying a lot. So, wow. Okay. I'm mile a minute here. All right. I've been away a couple weeks, so I'm good. Whatever. In fact, I could show you all the amount. Can I do that? I think I'm allowed to do that, right? Where is it? Maybe it's in here. Content analytics. Earn. Where the hell is it? Whatever. I can't find it. Anyway, I don't know where it is, Starless. Or anybody else. Okay, so come on, lads. Let's make sure Lance can pull his mullah out. It's a flash mob. It's probably enough now. I was trying to find where it's listed to see if I got enough. I can't find it in the middle of a stream. So I'll let you all know the next stream. Somebody remind me, and I'll let you know if I was able to pull it. I think I will be able to. So yeah. Yeah, and I don't put ads. I don't like there's a thing you check for ads. I don't know, but I don't really get ad revenue. But yeah, anyway. So you could support me in those places, but I still feel weird about it because ideally, like I would feel uncomfortable. I can't afford $5 per Substack because I've subscribed to like 50 Substacks. What am I going to pay? $100? I feel like we should get like micropayments, because if I get 1,000 views on a post and I got like 50 cents, it's $500 on a post, and then taxes, like that's great money, but let's say it was 10 cents, like little numbers can add up, right? For a relatively small blog in a way that would be meaningful. But I feel like a lot of stuff aggregates around the big blogs. So, big blogs, some people are getting tens of thousands of dollars a year. And then meanwhile, others of us are getting like a few hundred, and there's an asymmetry there where I don't know. But I wish people could pay like $1 a month or something, and maybe more people would sign up that way. I've had people tell me, no, that's not reasonable. I don't agree. I think people should be able to do that. In any case, DeVos says, do you enjoy doing debates? No, I don't enjoy doing debates. I do them anyway. I don't really enjoy them. So my debate was with David Enoch, who I've already done one debate with. So we had a round two. I will say that one was fun. So David Enoch is fun to talk to. So you'll see that debate. We got a little bit animated there. And I did enjoy that one. I don't enjoy all of them though. So I do hope I could talk to him again. Holy crap. That's $57. Oh yeah. So then I'm over I think you just need to hit 100. And I was at 63, I think. So I'm already way past it. I'm at like 130. So y'all are good. I'll be able to get it. Thank you. Awesome. Cool. Put it in the diaper fund, right? I will say we are getting a new studio because we looked around at some houses here to buy a house and we weren't happy. So like they were about the same price as just building a house. So why buy an old, dilapidated, smelly used house when we could just build a new one? So we bought some property and we're building a house, and they've just started the work last week. I'm going to drive by it so we could see they're clearing out some of the space, but it's a modular home. It's only going to take a few months to build it. So I'm going to be in there, I think in June. And so I will have a brand new studio. And that's something, because we don't even have, I'll just tell you, we don't even have a second car. It's a lot of stuff is tough. But there's people that, this is what's so stupid. People need money way more than me. What the hell are you giving me money for? Right? Like so many people need stuff, but whatever. People buy shit at Starbucks. I don't know how to handle money. Whatever. I have such deep ambivalence. Ugh, money. Ugh. I don't like it. But I need it and I want it, but I don't like it. I don't see, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? I don't like it, but I do. Shit. So anyway, so we're building a house and I will have a new place. And what I really wish is that I could just get, I wish I got like a grant, right? Like the young and upcoming podcast. Look how young I am. YouTubers of America grant. And then they just gave me money so I could get like a badass new camera. I got a new computer, which so I got a new computer, new monitors. I don't need a new mic. The mic's here. The mic is good. I'm happy with my headphones. The webcam, I need a new webcam. The monitors are brand new. And I got those arms where you could like move them around. I love it. Because before I just had two monitors and they're different brands. So they were like crooked. So one was sitting on a book. So now they're not. So that's set up. I'm happy with my mouse. I got the stand with my phone here. Oh, crap. Okay, that's stuck. Oh, okay. I'm not going to unplug it. Speakers are good. Yeah, I'm pretty much good here. I don't really need computer stuff other than I would like a slightly better webcam. So I'm good. I'm good on tech. So really what I'm thinking about is how to decorate the office, like to make the space behind me cooler. Because right now I have a very sad, I think it's a snake plant. Half of it died when I was in Brazil. I've got a purple LED. I want to get a second one in the other place. So I have light on both sides and there won't be a light like that. We'll see. I don't even know exactly what it's going to look like yet. That's an IKEA bookshelf. So, but I'm happy with it. I like IKEA stuff. It's not expensive, but I like it. So you can see the light coming through the middle because it's just that like thin board on the back. Anyway, so I just need decorations and I'm not a big decorator. I'm pretty minimalist. So I got one, they're like the display things. So like the metal posters, I got one of those and I want to get two more. I'll just tell you what it is. It's a Disco Elysium image, and I think I might get 2 more Disco Elysium images. It's one of my favorite games, and the images are really cool, and I'd like to have the consistency there, so I might put those behind me. But those aren't very expensive, so I don't need money for that. I got that. I'm covered. So I'm just trying to think. I could just buy a webcam. It's not a big deal. So I don't really think I need anything. I think I'm good. Give money to people that need it more than me. But if you want to sign up for my Patreon or Substack, I'm not going to say no. Okay. So back to this stuff. Super Morlock, have you read Metaethics by Mark Van Rooyen? It's pretty comprehensive for an introduction. Yeah, so that is one of the introductions I've read. I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure going through that and then comparing it. So there's the Mark Van Rooyen one. And what's the other one? I'm always forgetting. It was the first one. It was the first like intro-y kind of book. But I don't think that these don't strike me as like intros for freshmen. They strike me as like stuff for like a graduate student or like a 4th-year philosophy student. Is Introduction to Contemporary Metaethics. Yeah, an Introduction to Contemporary Metaethics by Alex Miller. So that was the first one I read. But I'm also seeing it listed as Contemporary Metaethics and Introduction. But I see the blue book with the one I read was called An Introduction to Contemporary Metaethics. It looks like it's an older version. Yeah, and then you got Metaethics, Routledge, Contemporary Introduction. And then you have, oh, is that the Mark Van Rooyen one? If it is, then I think I have read that. I think those are the 2 main ones. Yeah. So the Miller one, I quite like. I thought it was great. It has pretty good coverage of quasi-realism too, if I recall. It's been a while since I read that, so I don't remember exactly. But let me throw a link to that here. There's newer versions, but this is one of the ones I read. And again, oh my gosh, what is that giant URL? What a nightmare. 1 second. Let me give you a smaller one. I'm sorry about that. Let me delete that. That's a mess. Oh, I'm accidentally hit the display. And I also almost put myself in timeout. All right, here it is. Bam. So that is one I would recommend. But again, my impression from reading it is not, this is something I would give to like a high school student or a freshman to understand that ethics. It's something I give a person that's had a couple of years of philosophy class, at least. That's my impression. And I think it's built that way, but it is good. The Van Rooyen one is, I don't remember thinking this is way worse. So it might be as good or better. I don't know. Let me get caught up on the chats. Wow, so many. So yeah, last debate I did was a little over a week ago. And yeah, I want to do more debates. It's not because like I enjoy the debates, but I think it's important to do them. Akil says, maybe you could write about how other philosophical inquiries are confused. I do that on my blog more than I've done it on here. It's a little hard to do that extemporaneously. But yeah, I have written about it. But doing a stream on it, kind of tough. And again, SIP logic. I hope I'm saying that right. Thank you very much. I really, really, really appreciate it. That's awesome. SIP logic says, I have a small show on YouTube talking to Philo and Faith, and your content is great. Maybe once you can come. Small audio. Oh, absolutely. I do. I'll go on anybody's channel. I don't care. Yeah. Send me a message, SIP logic, and I'll be on there when you want me on there. So of course, it's got to fit my schedule with the baby and teaching and stuff. So get in touch. If you go over on my page, let's see where it's at. So you view my channel, and where would it be? Oh yeah, just if you're viewing my channel and you click on that more button where it says, my name is Lance. Is that Lance S. Bush with a comma? It is. Oh my God, there's a typo there. Shit. There's been a typo there for who knows how long. Let me fix that. That's going to piss me off. Lance S. Bush with a comma. Jesus, people. No one ever told me there's a typo. All right. It's fixed. Good Lord. Okay. Let me go back to the page then. All right. So click on more and you'll see Linktree, Patreon, Stripe, a bunch of stuff. And if you go down below that, you'll see the view email address. If you click on that, it'll give you the email address to email me at. And people certainly do email me there. So you could find that and yeah, send that my way. Send me an email and we'll work out a time to have a conversation. Presumably you want to talk about meta ethics, but I'm happy to talk about other stuff if it's topics I discuss, which is meta philosophy, intuitions, could talk about pragmatism. There's a few other things I'd talk about. Moral psych stuff, methodology stuff. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, happy to join you in there. Deva says, personal trainer, I'm broke as fucker and hook you up. Appreciate it. Thank you. The thoughts matter too. Deva says maybe doing more live streams. Well, I mostly do streams. I don't think that they typically earn you as much money. I think you have to have those, but you know, I punch above my weight class because my view count, like you right now, I'm seeing it's like 50s and 60s. It's higher than my subscriber count. Like I see people with 10 times as many subscribers and they don't have as many viewers. So I seem to do pretty well for that, but it hasn't translated into subscribers and income. So I don't know. Maybe I need to stream totally different content. But anyway, my point was when I was talking about video games is, you know, in another life, I could be a pastry chef or a video game designer. What I was really interested in isn't like the coding for video games. It's like plot, dialogue, game mechanics. Like I like designing classes and magic systems and that sort of thing. Particularly fantasy games is probably what I'd mostly work on, but I like science fiction too. It's like as far as the fiction I read, it's probably 80% fantasy and 20% sci-fi. So I read a lot of sci-fi. I like Arthur C. Clarke, Ted Chiang. Exhalation is amazing. Stories of Our Lives and Others. The Three-Body Problem was a really good recent book too that they turned into. That's not Ted Chiang, it's a different person. But they turned it into like a Netflix show. The first one I liked. The second book I wasn't big on, but someone told me it's good, and I just got to get past the beginning. What other sci-fi is good? I like the Bobaverse books. I don't remember who the author is. There's another one where there's like spiders. What is that one called? I can't remember, but that was good. I'd have to go through the list. I can't remember off the top of my head. And the fantasy is too embarrassing for me to even mention. But I like a lot of goofy fantasy. Yeah, I like the Red Rising series too. I thought that was good. A lot of people didn't like the first book especially, or they see it as too like, I don't know, edgelordy or something. I don't know. I like people kicking ass. It's like Conan in space, kind of a little bit. But anyway, so I've thought about doing streams and videos and stuff on video games. I don't know if people would have any interest in that. That was what I was getting at. I didn't need to spend 30 minutes to trot that out. Sip Logic says I'm a mix of anti-realist error theory and utilitarians effective altruist, as you said. Very cool. Yeah, so that was what I was for many years. And I've kind of retired from a lot of that. I'm not an error theorist, though. I'm in my own category. I call it anti-realist quietism. I don't really know what to call it. Wow, I have not got back to the video, and I'm not going to because it's at the 2-hour mark. Keel says the I'm an X discourse is quite strange. It's not like utilitarians give 91% of their money to buy a Larry. That seems more like identifying with a sports team. I think there's some truth to that. In fact, I have a blog post about that. Sorry, Sip Logic. I don't mean to imply that you're not committed to your values, but I do think that our commitments can only run so deep in terms of how much they motivate us, and it's very hard to be fully committed to and motivated by abstract philosophical commitments, given all the other drives that motivate us. I think part of it has to do with the fact that I don't actually think morality is the center of our motivational lives. But let me see if I can find the post on that. Where is it? I don't like dead air and no sound on my channel. Where is it? I can't find it. So I'm not going to try to find it now. It'll take too long. So Akil, if you post a comment saying, hey, find the blog post related to this comment, I will track it down and send it to you, because I posted something about more. I might even have used the sports team analogy. I used something like that. So I'll track it down, but I have a post basically saying something like that. Ice Center says, theoretically, you could put your family above your moral values in your hierarchy, so you could still be, you could, but I'm just not. utilitarian. Devo says, I like Josh Green's deep pragmatism. I think that's a cool terminological proposal from him. So that comes from his book, Moral Tribes, which I think is a pretty good book. Older book. I do think his dual process model has not stood the test of time too well, but I do like his efforts to promote basically consequentialism of some kind. So it says, just wrote a tips for Souls-like noobs article on Substack you might dig. Cool. Send it. I'll check it out. Happy to do that. Yeah, you know what? I've never played what are those games like Elden Ring or any of that stuff? I've never played any of those. I guess it's different games for me. Latest games I played was more Bannerlord with mods. So I was playing the Lord of the Rings thing. It's a Tales from the Age of Men, I think is the current. It's like a really well developed full conversion Lord of the Rings mod for Bannerlord, and I was really enjoying that. I've been going back to the classic EverQuest, so that's what I'm currently playing. So if anybody wants to play with me, get in touch, send me an email or leave a message or something. I'd be happy to try to get you set up in the game, and you could play with me in the game. That'd be cool. I'd really enjoy that. Actually, I would love that. Actually, I went on there because I wanted more socializing in games, so I decided to go back to playing an online game. But yeah, I'm playing the original EverQuest, like the one from 25 years ago. And it's a blast. I absolutely love it. But Disco Elysium is the best recent game I played. It's incredible. One of the best gaming experiences I've had. It's very, very light in terms of like game mechanics. It's more of a story. But holy crap. One of the best written games I've ever played. Deeply moving, extremely funny, my kind of humor, my kind of dark, weird. It was just, it scratched an itch I didn't know I had. Oh man, it did something for me. It improved my life. And you know what? It caused a permanent improvement in my life. It was that good. That's how fucking good Disco Elysium was. It was that good. Holy crap, that game is good. The aesthetics, the vibe, the dialogue. Oh my God. Transformatively good experience. So for any of the people that worked on Disco Elysium, hell yeah. You're amazing. But as far as my favorite games, my favorite game ever created, ever, is called Tactics Ogre Let Us Cling Together. I think it's Atlas that makes it. The game came out on the Super Nintendo in Japan back in, I think, 1998 or something, a long time ago. And then it was ported over by the time they were bringing it, they're like doing the English translations or whatever. What I'm surmising is that we were already into the PlayStation era. So they brought it over to the PlayStation despite having more or less SNES graphics. Thank you. The AI in the game for 30 something years ago is actually pretty decent. Like the game is pretty ruthless, but in any case, amazing storyline, difficult, challenging tactical combat, lots and lots. You could have 30 characters in your group and pretty much all of them. I mean, you're going to have a few like random soldiers you pick up and stuff. But all the story-based characters, there's like 50 main characters with like major dialogue and story and development. When you finish the game, you get an epilogue for all the main characters. It's just story. It has real role-playing elements where the choices you make radically alter the course of the game, and there's different whole timelines in the game. Actions you take in the game affect the ending and the outcomes. And it's got real RPG elements. It's a tactical combat game that was heavily inspired, and I think the same person involved, in Final Fantasy Tactics. So if you play that and you enjoy that, I love Final Fantasy Tactics. It would definitely make top 20. I don't know about top 10, but this is number one for me. And I know people compare them. Some people like Final Fantasy Tactics better, and I consider that a fair. Like that's not something I go, no, it's not better. Fair. I don't think it's better, but if someone else finds it better, it's like the chocolate vanilla thing. If you think chocolate's better, that's cool with me. But just the game is just insanely good. I will say this, and they're not paying me to advertise it, but it was re-released on the PSP. So it's so good they released it on the PSP, like, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago. But then they actually re-released it, I think, 2 or 3, I think 2023, I think. So 3 years ago. It's called Tactics Ogre Reborn, and it is available on Steam. But they made changes to the game, which I'm very unhappy with. So I did not buy it, and I will not buy it. It doesn't look like people have modded out the things to change it back to the way I liked it. So, excuse me, everybody, one moment. It's the dogs. I don't know if you could hear them. I could hear them. In any case, what was I saying? Right. So they made changes to the game that I'm not happy with, but I'm still sure it's a good game. So probably the easiest access today would be Tactics Ogre Reborn. I'm sure it's good. They also re-released Final Fantasy Tactics. It's like Final Fantasy. There's some new name for it, but they just re-released that, I think, this year, like a few months ago. And that looks really good. So I like those turn-based strategy games. One that they came out a few years ago, I quite liked. It has a linear storyline, which wasn't my favorite thing, but the story was fine. Like it didn't blow me away. But I really like the classes and the leveling system. It's very Final Fantasy Tactics. It's called Felseal Arbiter's Mark. It's not as good as those other games. I think it's Nine Studios, I think, the people that made it. So I'm very sorry. I don't think it's not as good as the classics, but it's very good. I did enjoy it. And I like the main characters. I thought they were fine. The classes are super cool. A little exploitable. I found it too easy. So I had characters that were just like dual wield, just churning through everything. So, when you're just one-shotting all your enemies, I played it through in like after you beat it, you can play through in the super difficult version, and I just steamrolled everything. So. Oh, sorry, everybody. I thought I had a coffee there, and it's not a coffee, so I was surprised by that. And I think that's a sign I gotta go soon. Camel Koya says, "What do you think about video game called Kentucky Route Zero?" I'm sorry, never heard of it. So maybe I need to do some more research on games. I like to focus in on certain games and just play them obsessively. So I got hundreds of hours in Tactics Ogre, like lucked, I guess you call it, Let Us Cling Together. Hundreds, I don't know, infinite hours in it. Let me pull up Steam and see what I got in here. I got Steam and GOG. Oh, great old game I used to play was Lands of Lore. I think is it Throne of Chaos? I can't remember the subtitle, but it was that was a really cool game. And I do know that they've released new retro games that are like that. So let's see. What do I have here that I really like? Oh, I just got Chrono Trigger. I never played that back in the day, and I'm going to have to play it. All the Fallout games. So Tactics Ogre Let Us Cling Together is number one. Number two, I'm going to have to switch the list up. It's got to be Baldur's Gate 2 is my number two. So a long time I've clung to. Baldur's Gate 1 is actually better than Baldur's Gate 2. Nah, Baldur's Gate 2 is better. Too much quality of life improvements. I think that opinion was colored by the fact that I afterwards used mods that brought features like the kits and stuff from Baldur's Gate 2 into Baldur's Gate 1. And I like the open world of Baldur's Gate 1, but Baldur's Gate 2 is just so damn good. So that's my number two. Number three is Baldur's Gate 1. Number four is Fallout 1. And on that one, I'm not switching. I like Fallout 1 better than Fallout 2. And then number five is Fallout 2. So those would be my top five, all old games from the late 90s. Nothing has topped those games ever for me. But Fallout New Vegas is awesome. Fallout 3, I think, is underrated. I quite like it. Fallout 4 is what they did with the dialogue. But in terms of gameplay and class stuff, I like that. Story also not super thrilling. This game I really liked. I'm looking at my list here. Far Cry Primal. I actually really liked that. I didn't like the other I'm not that into the other Far Cry stuff. Oh, a game I beat back in January was The Forest. I loved The Forest. I thought that was a blast. Yeah, it's a good game. Short, but good. And it worth it. This is a great game that I've played recently. Kinshi. So I played this 3 years ago. Oh my God, what a blast that was. Kinshi's amazing. Look into Kinshi. I'm not even going to, I'll have to do a whole video where I start talking about this stuff. Kinshi's great. Really, really, really enjoyed it. Yeah, Mountain Blade. That might be number 6, the original Mountain Blade on my list. I don't know. But Mountain Blade Bannerlord, I've been playing that recently. Pillars of Eternity 1 and 2, Portal 1 and 2. Pretty much any Total War game. I like all of them. Rome 1 and 2, I like both. A lot of people complain about 2, but you can mod it and it's good. Which ones? Where are the rest of the Total War games? Rome 2, Shogun 2 is really good. The Warhammer ones are all good. Oh, Vampire Survivors. I was playing that on my laptop when I was on a trip. I did play Warhammer Vermintide for a while. Total War Attila is the latest Total War that I played. I really like that one. It's fun. I played as Eastern Roman Empire. And I have Sons of the Forest and I haven't played it yet. And I played the Civilization games a bit. Okay, so that should give you some sense of the games. Wow, we really went off the rails here. That's fine. Whatever. It's a stream. I can do what I want. Man, I like that. I could do whatever the hell I want here. I could talk about whatever I want. I could start talking about Cheetos. You can't stop me. I could talk about Cheetos. What are you going to do? 2 now? Actually, no, it was the same amount of people. Why are you all listening to me talk about Cheetos? I'm not even talking about Cheetos. That was just an example. Okay. Look, I have like a illness delirium. Okay. What games are you playing on Xbox? So, Devos, I don't have an Xbox. I don't have any consoles. I don't even have a TV. I only have a PC. I haven't had a TV for a few years. I can't even remember. Holy crap. Hold on. I'm thinking. I haven't had a TV since 2019. Holy shit. It's been 7 years. Wow. I didn't even think about that. I haven't had a TV in forever. So no consoles for me. I don't own any consoles. Wait, I do have a console. I have a console in a box over there, but I'm not using it because I don't have a TV. So whatever. I think I have a tiny thing, questionable whether it's a TV. It's like 32 inches or something. So I don't know if it's a monitor or TV. But that I'm not playing a console game on that. I need a big ass TV, you know? So in the new house, we might get a TV, but you know what? I haven't missed having, look how much I didn't miss having a TV. I couldn't remember when I had last had one. I remember it was I think it's Scepter or Spectre. What is that company called? Whatever. I remember it was a TV I had when I moved to West Lafayette, Indiana. And it was in the move. It was perfectly fine. When we got there, it just never worked again. And then someone bought it for scrap parts and took it away. And we haven't bought a TV since then. So yeah, that was 2019. It was before COVID. That's wild. Holy shit. Right? That's years. Yeah. How do I not have a TV? That's wild. Okay. I thought I hadn't had one for like 2 years, but nope. Gamer tag. I don't even remember. You mean on Steam? I don't remember what I used on there. Shit. I'm not very good at this video game stuff, am I? Unless you mean an Xbox, in which case I'm not on there. Yeah, so this is true. So Unsilenced Derp says this about donating through Patreon. Yeah, other stuff takes a smaller cut. So I don't know what percentage Substack takes, if any. I don't know how that works exactly. But I think I get more from the other sources than from here. But I mean, convenience is relevant to people. So yeah, Mr. Posh, you're right about this. Debates aren't fun to do, but there's a feeling of obligation in me to defend my position. Same here. Starla says, yeah, the Substack payment setup sucks. A lot of us use Buy Me a Coffee to supplement, but Substack could definitely use this. I don't know. Is Buy Me a Coffee, should I be using that? Maybe someone tell me about that afterwards too, if you want to reach out and tell me about that. Sapir, I don't know if you're referring to the people throwing money my way, but Lance is fine. LOL, just take the W. Okay, I will. I'll just accept it. Thank you. Appreciate it. Please fill the bookshelf with unread encyclopedias. Ben Singleton says Disco Elysium is an awesome game. It is. Andrew Fisher, Alexander Miller. Yep. No Cakewalk says you should put like 10 super obscure books in the bookshelf and no more. I thought about putting fake books on there and having a Gettier bookshelf. I think I mentioned that. So like Mike Humer, one second. Mike Humer has that like fake background. And I thought about like just having like fake books on the bookshelf. I don't know. Yeah, I swear I had not read this. So then Starless, now I'm reading this. There's something symbolic about the fact that you have an empty bookshelf and then Humer uses a green screen of a fake full one. Yeah, I have a real empty one and he has a fake full one. I think there's, I don't know what it symbolizes, but it symbolizes something. And look at that. That is a comment from 20 minutes ago. Holy crap, I'm far behind. Unless nobody's commented for a while. Starla says Disco Elysium for the win. Love the fact there's metal musicians. I don't know any of that stuff, but okay. I don't know. All right. Okay. Sea Power and Warno. Don't know what those are. $1,200 for a used copy of what? What are you talking about? I'm not following everything in here. Super Marlock, would you still have a second collaboration with Humor? Absolutely. Humor's, I'd be happy to talk to him anytime. Yeah, he's very easy to talk to. I put off. People kept saying, talk to Humor, and I didn't do it for like 2 years. I'm like, I don't think it'll go well. Then I talked to him and he's great to talk to. Look, I disagree with him about virtually everything, but he's very chill. When we talked off air, he was super nice and easy to talk to. Cool guy to talk to. It's nice to have people to disagree with strongly, and they're not obnoxious or hard asses or difficult to talk to. So he's very easy to get along with. So yeah, I'd be 100%. I would enjoy talking to him again. It's challenging, but I'd enjoy it. This is the most chat engagement I've seen on the channel. I don't know what happened. We just started doing it. I don't know. Okay. Bardo says, Lance, who's your favorite meta-ethicist? Well, I've had big influences on my meta-ethical views, and probably one of the biggest is a philosopher named Michael Gill. And he wrote this paper, Indeterminacy and Variability of Meta-Ethics, and that really got the ball rolling for me. So that was a big influence. As far as who the best, who's my favorite? I like a lot of Thomas Polster's stuff. He's a contemporary researcher. Jennifer Wright has done some cool work. Don Loeb. So, every paper I've read from Don Loeb is awesome. So I think if I had to pick my favorite, I'd be Don Loeb. Don Loeb and Michael Gill. Yeah. Unsilenced Derp says, what part of meta-ethics do you enjoy talking about? All of it. I don't know how to answer that. Andy Weir. That's the Martian guy, right? The Martian is an amazing book. I like the movie too. I haven't seen the new stuff. Werner Vinch, haven't read. Tchaikovsky is the spider guy. That sounds right. What is the book called? All right, I have to look it up. It's going to annoy me if I don't. Something like Children or something? Children of Time. Yes, Children of Time. That is a great book, and I haven't followed up with it. And then the Bobaverse series is really good, but I haven't read the latest one. Medco says, did you play Expedition 33? Yeah, I got a subscription. It's like an Xbox PC thing that you could play it on the computer. And it was like free on there when you paid. And I got it like the trial or whatever. And I played it for like 3 or 4 days. It didn't sink in for me, and I didn't continue with it, but I had a lot of stuff going on at the time. So it's the kind of game I would like, especially because it has a play style very similar to Legend of Dragoon, which is an old PlayStation game. Correct me if I'm wrong, which is freaking awesome. So it's totally my kind of like turn-based combat, but with a real-time element in it. So it's totally the kind of thing I should like. Because often when people don't like the game, they don't like it because of the combat. That was not an issue for me. I don't know what it was. I think I was just too busy at the time for the story to sink in. But yeah, it seemed like something I would like if I put more time into it. Oh, this is a great. Ice Ender says, I'd love to hear your opinion someday on Sharon Street's Human Constructivism. So I have read her paper or papers. Maybe I've read 2 on this, 1 or 2 papers on this. I don't know. Very first meta-ethical stance that I don't find completely incompatible with my experience. Yeah, so I think it's quite defensible. Sharon Street is, I am totally stupid. How did I forget Sharon Street? Holy crap. Okay, so favorite meta-ethics people, Michael Gill, Don Loeb, Thomas Polster, Jennifer Wright, Sharon Street, of course. So her work with ideally coherent eccentrics, like that ICE paper, that's awesome. Of course, she was my introduction to evolutionary debunking arguments. Sharon Street's awesome and a phenomenally good writer. So I don't like a lot of philosophy writing, and she's just good at writing philosophy. I did see her at like a workshop or something a couple of years ago. She or maybe it was a year and a half. I don't know. Whatever, who cares? But she's great. So yeah, and human constructivism is quite nice. I like it. So Street is fantastic, and I highly recommend her. Even if you don't agree with her, she's important and influential, and probably one of the most important contemporary meta-ethicists. Devo says, I'd be interested in some gaming streams for show. Yeah, I might have to do it on a different channel. That'd be weird to stream video games in here, right? Don't you think? Dark Souls. Yeah, those are the Elden Ring games. I never played any of those. Never. I don't know why. I never played them. Seems like a game I'd like, right? They're supposed to be difficult. Okay, once I'm caught up with the chat, everybody, I got to go. It's past 2 hours. All right. So Bardo says you should play Red Dead Redemption 2 if you haven't. So I know a lot about the game, and I've seen a lot of stuff on the graphics and all that stuff. Unfortunately, I'm not into Wild West and cowboy stuff. It's got to have robots or monsters. I like fantasy and science fiction. This is why I liked the Far Cry Primal, because it's almost fantasy, because it's like an ancient world, but like contemporary stuff with like guns, it doesn't scratch the itch for me. So like surreal can work too, or weird. So this is why Portal works for me, right? Or Neverwinter Nights, but I just can't do the cowboy stuff. I'm not into it. So Camel says my favorite game is Hitman 2, Silent Assassin. The soundtrack is yeah, a lot of games have amazing soundtracks, right? So I never played any of those Hitman games or Rogue or any of those, but I did play Tenchu. I think it's like Tenchu Stealth Assassin, and that game was super cool. So like stealth games are cool. Oh right. Are coming out with a game called Zero Parades. I heard that they were coming out with some other game, but I don't think I had that name, but I heard that they're coming out with a new game. Yeah, Starless says they just remastered Final Fantasy. Yeah, they remastered it and re-released it, and it's on PC, so you could get it. Well, I think of everything in terms of PCs. I don't know what else you could get it on. Girlfriend just finished Unravel 2 co-op. Good and challenging. Cool. Don't know what it is. Sea Power Naval Simulation game. Bins, yeah, people like Baldur's Gate, they like Pillars of Eternity. I love Pillars of Eternity 1 and 2. Some people weren't as happy with 2. Deadfire, nah, bullshit. That game is amazing. I love the setting. It's in it almost like one of the major factions is like a Pacific Islander based kind of thing, and it's really cool. The names of things, the aesthetics of it, the way things are set up, the way the culture works, it's very cool. It's just you rarely see that kind of setting, and it's kind of like they're starting to bring guns into the world. So it's a fantasy setting with wizards, but guns. And it's in like it's like an island, like, chain of islands. It's not your typical European fantasy. Nothing wrong with that. I love that. So like Kingdom Come Deliverance, I'm all about that. I love the immersion of that. But I just like different environments and settings, and you don't typically get fantasy games in that kind of setting. So I'm all about it. It's just incredibly good. But I like the story. People weren't as happy with the story. I like that. I like the multi-classing that they added. I like the changes to the combat. It's a little more fast-paced. I liked ciphers in the original. I really liked it. I didn't like them as much in the second one. So some of the gameplay changes I didn't like, but overall I thought it was... I like the first one better, but the second one is very good. Medieval 3 is coming out. I didn't play the first two, so... I think I own them and haven't played them. I don't know. I don't remember. Deva says I really enjoyed the TV Fallout series. I didn't like it. I'm sorry. It's okay if you like it, but I didn't like it. Lance, do you ever play XCOM? No, I bought XCOM in the past year at some point and I haven't played it. If I buy a game, I have to play it, right? So I haven't played XCOM. I bought it because it was on sale and it was like super cheap. So I've spent a few bucks on it. But I played Xenonauts and I thought that was really good. So it's supposed to be like that. Oh my God, we've been talking about video games forever. This is my favorite stream you've done so far. Why? Because I'm just talking about random stuff suddenly. I don't even remember when we got started on this. I think it was about an hour and a half mark. Yeah, okay. So Icenders, this is exactly what I'm talking about. So when I start creating the fake books for the bookshelf, this is the kind of thing I might put there. Why torturing puppies for fun is not objectively wrong. That would be funny. Superior says you'll never catch up to the comments. I'm going to try. Jesus, there's so many. This is insane, everybody. This is insane. I don't even have 3,000 subscribers, and I have the most active chat ever. Thanks, Sapir, for monitoring it. If hopefully you're doing that. Children of Strife. Yeah, I don't remember. Is that the second or third book? But after Children of Time. But I got to get caught up and read those because they're really good. Corkshire, what does Lance think of Richard Joyce? Yeah, I mostly positive. I don't agree with Joyce's substantive position. So, like, I've read Evolution of Morality, and then his book on error theory. What is it called? Is it The Myth of Morality, or is that? I always get his title mixed up with Mackey. 1 second. Oh my God. Why is Richard Joyce and Mackie merging into one person in my head? 1 second. Shit. Joyce, what is the name of your book? Yeah, it is Joyce. Okay. No, I had it right. Jesus. I should trust myself. Yeah, Myth of Morality and Evolution of Morality. Good books. Don't agree with the substantive empirical claims he makes. So I don't think moral cognition is a distinctive form of, I don't think it evolved. So I think he's wrong in the empirics in there. And then I don't endorse error theory because I don't think most people are moral realists. But I do think he's done exceptionally well in defending those positions. He's a very clear, crisp writer. I really like his work. So he's the kind of person I don't agree with, but I would consider him more like on the allied side of being clearly correct about anti-realism. Icinder says, thank you very much for your response on Sharon Street. Yep, no problem. Okay, that might mean I'm getting caught up. Okay. Ben says, cool, I haven't got PO2, Pillars of Eternity 2 yet. Yeah, now you have Path of Exile 2, so PoE can be confusing. I have played Path of Exile. Deva says, Lance, what about Molly Crockett? Not super familiar with Crockett's work. I've read a paper randomly here or there as it's become relevant for whatever I'm working on. Sapir says, Lance, you should definitely check out Diablo 2 Resurrected. I've already played that. Yep. Already done it. Done. Yeah, I loved it, Diablo 2 and the Resurrected one. Bardo says, Lance is never going to catch up with the chat. I'm trying. I'm racing you all and I'm going to win. Wait, he turned Children Time into a series of similar type of premises, 4th book now? Holy crap. Okay, I know. I think I got the 2nd book and I haven't even read that. Pop SB JDs. I hope you put the BA series back up. What is the BA series? Abel X says, wow, you don't agree with Joyce. I always thought you did. Well, no, because so a couple things. So Joyce is an error theorist. So he thinks that like the correct account of ordinary moral semantics is that people are committed implicitly or whatever to there being objective moral truth. I don't think that's true. So I've never endorsed, well, I don't endorse error theory. Maybe I did at some point, but I don't now. So I'm not an error theorist, but my position, like we both think it's not the case that there are objective moral truths, but he has a different view about like moral language. And I think he's incorrect about that. And then he has a different view about the evolution of morality. He's more of a nativist and I'm not. Sapir, I didn't see it and I'm not scrolling up at this point. You didn't read the rest of the comment. I'm sorry. Talk to me on Discord about it if you want. Wait, they released an expansion for, oh, D2. I thought you were talking about Red Dead Redemption. They released an expansion for Diablo 2? Really? But aren't they on Diablo 4? Why would they do that? I'm not addressing the question on intuitions. Okay, I got caught up. Okay, imagine if we all just donate and ask Lance like 10 questions. Please don't do that. Donate on my next stream, not on this one, because I have a daughter and she needs me. So I got to get going, guys. So I got to wrap it up there, everybody. I didn't even get to finish this video, but it's because you all engage with me so much. And I super duper appreciate that. I now feel energized, right? Like before I got in here and I was like slouching and everything, and I feel better now. So it's been community healing for me. And, I feel better now. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. And thank you for everybody that donated to me. Thank you for everybody that did not donate to me. Thank you, too, being in the chat, talking to me. I think I needed this. I think I've been at home coughing and laying around going for too long. And it's good to hear from people. So thank you all very much. I may or may not continue this video if I think it has content worth looking at. I actually had another video with William Lane Craig to get to. I have another video with somebody covered on relativism. We got Andrew Wilson stuff to cover. So I've got at least 5 or 6 videos in the queue. Hopefully I'll be back on in the next few days, but I do have some other work to get caught up on. Thank you, everybody. I have this adrenaline rush now, but I'm sure when I get off of here, I'm going to go back to going, ugh. So I'm not fully recovered, but I'm here anyway. So I didn't want to be away too long. So thank you, everybody. Do please like the video, subscribe if you're not already subscribed, leave a comment in the comment section. I've been pinning comments if I think they're the best comment, or if I think somebody's really obnoxious and it's funny. Someone was like really insulting me, so I pinned it. I was like, yeah, it's fun. So I think I unpinned it eventually, but I love the engagement. Thank you all so much. You make this worth doing for me, and I really appreciate that. All right, everybody, take care.